Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shelter Game. I can synthesize infinitely. Chapter 91. Black Dragon Statue. Close black lens bracket. Description. Special building of the shelter. Close black lens bracket. Materials required. Ore X100 optional, Metal X100 optional, Dragon Beast Heart X1 optional, Dragon Beast Scales X100 optional, Dragon Beast Skeleton X100 optional, Special Materials X100. Close black lens bracket. Looking at these required materials, Bai had a headache. Not only do you need a lot of materials, but you basically have to choose them all yourself. What does this mean? Explain that basically the materials required are not ordinary materials, but special materials. When it comes to ores, metals, etc., we should use the best that can be used. Because only in this way can the effect of construction be powerful. In addition, the heart, scales and bones of the dragon beast are even needed. It can only be said to be outrageous. Fortunately, these are all optional. In other words, as long as it belongs to a dragon beast, it is not a real dragon. Otherwise, if you really have to use all the materials from the dragon to build it, you won't have to think about building it at all for a long time. It's hard to even see a living giant dragon in this dark place, let alone a problem that you can't defeat if you see it. Suddenly, Bai turned his head and looked at the bones under the dragon's soul, his eyes gleaming. Dragon Heart. After completing the Dragon Soul mission, he can get a dragon heart, but it must depend on the specific effect. If it is powerful, he will definitely be reluctant to use it to build this building. The effect is average, but it can be considered. There are no scales or anything like that here. After all, the black dragon in front of me has been dead for who knows how long. Many of the treasures buried in the ground by 643 have been completely integrated into the earth, not to mention the flesh and blood and scales. It has long since decayed and turned into dust. But the bones are clearly visible in front of you. And looking at the size of the bones, the number could easily be 100, and there might be more. How about cutting it off now? Bai thought secretly in his heart. As this thought arose, Dragon Soul suddenly seemed to sense some malice, and couldn't help but open his eyes and look at Bai, and said calmly, "Human, I feel like you have some bad thoughts towards me." "Ahem, you're thinking too much, I'm just thinking about something." Bai quickly denied it. "What I said is that even if I die, I don't want to give up even if I have thoughts about you." "Humph, that's best." Dragon Soul heard the words and snorted coldly, but did not go into details. Instead, he continued to close his eyes, unable to bear to watch Bai dig up his treasure. Seeing this, he touched his nose and temporarily decided to think about it after the dragon soul dissipated. "Anyway, I don't have a few days left to live." Putting away the drawings, Bai continued digging. "But it is a pity that after getting this blueprint, all that is left are some gold coins." Others could only find some useless fragments and traces. They were all treasures that had been buried. It made Bai extremely heartbroken, but he had to accept the reality. After confirming that there was no other gain, Bai said to Dragon Soul, "Lord Dragon Soul, I'm ready to go." "Okay, I hope you can succeed." Dragon Soul opened his eyes and said with some expectation, "If you can kill my child, bring its skull." "No problem." Bai patted his chest, smiled and nodded in agreement, then turned and left. After walking out of the mine, Bai immediately logged into the game. The tiger mother has already woken up. Bai's own stomach growled, waking up Zhang Kai. "Well, Bai, Mia is hungry." The elf rubbed his eyes and lay on Bai's belly and said in a daze. There was still saliva at the corner of his mouth that he had not had time to wipe, which wet Bai's pajamas. Bai said helplessly, "I understand, I'm going to prepare breakfast for you." After that, Bai put Mia aside, and he got up and started to wash up, then put on some clothes, opened the door and walked out. Phew, the wind howled. The sky was overcast and there were signs of heavy rain coming. Just in case, Bai turned around and took an umbrella before going out. Instead of buying supplies immediately, I plan to go to a nearby second-hand car dealer to buy a van. It is inconvenient for others to deliver the large amount of supplies I buy every day, so I still have to buy one myself. And he also discovered that every time he was targeted, it was when he was walking on the street. If there was a car, who could find him? After all, at this stage, players basically avoid ordinary people subconsciously, mainly because they don't want ordinary people to know. They themselves haven't taken much advantage yet. What if ordinary people knew about this? Take criminals as an example. If I let ordinary people know about this matter, how can I still commit crimes? By then, won't it be a player for all and a fighting force for all? By then, criminals will probably be afraid of ordinary people committing crimes. Therefore, Bai Yi feels that as long as he drives his car, he can get off the car and get in the car in front of his house when he goes home, which will save him a lot of trouble. After all, there are many neighbors around the house. As for why you don't buy a new car, it's mainly because you're too lazy to drive, and some procedures are cumbersome. It's better to just buy a second-hand one, which won't last long anyway. When they arrived, the second-hand car dealer was also open. Bai Yi quickly solved the problem, got a van, and drove directly to the market. After spending another half an hour buying a lot of supplies, I returned home and started preparing breakfast. By the time we had finished eating and drinking, it was already 8:30. Mia, come here. Seeing Mia who had finished breakfast, Bai Yi quickly shouted and waved. Mia immediately flew over holding her beloved pink mobile phone and asked curiously. Bai Yi, why are you calling Mia? It's a good thing. Bai Yi took out the professional runes and asked with a smile. Do you know what this is? Have no idea. Mia shook her head, her face blank. Bai Yi was not surprised by this and explained it to her. This is a prop between players. It's normal for the creatures in the Dark Land not to know. After listening to the introduction, Mia's eyes suddenly widened with shock on her face. Okay, that's amazing, there is such a magical item. But Bai Yi, do you want to use it for Mia? Yes, after all, this professional rune is the most suitable for you. Mia asked sheepishly. Isn't it bad? Mia only knows how to grow things. Giving such precious items to Mia will be a waste. Where is the waste? Bai Yi picked up the little guy and held it in his hands, smiling and encouraging. In my opinion, Mia is very powerful. After all, I don't know how to grow things, and I know nothing about those extraordinary plants. I have to rely on Mia for everything. With this professional rune, Mia will be even better at growing things. Maybe I will have to rely on Mia to make a full meal in the future. So this rune belongs to none other than Mia. Hearing this, Mia immediately looked at Bai Yi with tears in her eyes, a look of emotion on her face. Wow, I didn't expect Mia to be so important in Bai Yi's heart. Don't worry, Bai Yi. As long as Mia has a bite to eat in the future, you will have a bite to eat. Bai Yi, it always feels weird to say these words from the mouth of a cute little guy like you. But forget it, don't worry about the details. Haha, then Mia has to work hard. Bai Yi said with a smile and handed over the professional runes. Mia put down her phone, picked up the professional rune, looked at Bai Yi, and asked how to use it. After Bai Yi introduced it, Mia nodded and chose to use professional runes. I saw it turning into light and pouring into Mia's body. Immediately afterwards, Mia closed her eyes, subconsciously covered her head and exclaimed. Bai Yi, Mia has a lot of things in her head. What kind of ability is it? It seems to be a very powerful ability. Mia kept nodding her head, a happy smile involuntarily appeared on her delicate little face. To be honest, Bai Yi really doesn't know much about the profession of farmer. He didn't get it in the last life. He just heard people say that he didn't know anything about skills and talents. So after Mia finished using it, Bai Yi quickly let Mia enter the game and checked Mia's information. Open black lens bracket Mia. Close black lens bracket. Race, flower elf. Close black lens bracket. Extraordinary occupation, farmer. Close black lens bracket. Level 1. Close black lens bracket. Talent, fertile soil. Close black lens bracket. Professional talent. 4 seasons. Plants planted by hand will not be affected by the seasons. Professional specialization. Farming plants planted by hand, the growth speed increases by 10%. Close black lens bracket. Skills, accelerated growth, nutrient aura, communication. Novice can communicate with plants. Close black lens bracket. Tisk, it's really awesome. Bai Yi's eyes brightened slightly and he exclaimed. A professional talent, a specialization, and a skill. All very suitable for Mia. Especially the 4 seasons and farming, one can prevent plants from being affected by seasons, and the other can increase the growth rate. This all includes extraordinary plants. Coupled with Mia's own skills, her adaptability is invincible. In addition, there is a communication skill, and there is a proficiency level behind the skill. This is another special feature of the sub-career. The skills of sub-professionals all have proficiency levels. The higher the proficiency level, the stronger the effect. The skill of communication is also very powerful. If you can communicate with plants, you can make the plants grow better. The most important thing is that this skill seems to be helpful for exploration. But not in the dark place, but after darkness comes to reality. After all, exploring with Mia in a dark place is too risky. If darkness comes to the Earth, he will be confident in protecting Mia's safety based on the environment of the early Earth and his own strength, taking Mia to explore. By then, with this skill in hand, as long as there are communicating plants nearby, I am afraid I will be able to easily know some of the surrounding situations, such as dangers and treasures. It's a small, top-notch skill. After checking Mia's information, Bai Yi summoned her, and then looked at the tiger mother and tiger cubs. He had already read the information about this mother and son, and their attributes were basically the same. But tiger mother was stronger than he expected. Ice tiger, tiger mother. Close black lens bracket. Level 2. Close black lens bracket. Talent. Ice attribute affinity. Close black lens bracket. Skills. Freezing wind, violent blood, tearing claws, ice breath. Close black lens bracket. He originally thought that the tiger mother was the first level. But I didn't expect to reach the second level. And his skills are more powerful than he thought. Compared to the tiger mother, the tiger cub has only one attribute, ice attribute, an affinity, probably because he hasn't grown up yet, and currently has no other skills. Bai Yi didn't care about this. Anyway, he doesn't need tiger mother and tiger cubs to fight before darkness falls. But after seeing Mia as an example, he made up his mind. I am consciously thinking about whether I can get some props for tiger mother and the others in the future to improve their strength. As a beast, professional runes are definitely useless. But skill runes should do. In addition, there are some items that can increase 4.4 liters of bloodline, which should also work. But after thinking about it, Bai Yi shook his head. Forget it, there's no use thinking about it now, let's wait until we get it. As he spoke, he looked at Mia. Looking forward to getting the farmer career rune next time. This time he got it. He actually thought about synthesizing the farmer professional runes, but in the end he didn't. Because the farmer profession is a basic profession, career promotion can only begin if the basic profession is obtained first, otherwise the synthesis will be useless. However, sub-professions are even rarer, so you can pay attention to them from other players in the future. No matter what the sub-profession is, every time the combat power increases, before darkness falls, players' interest in this profession should not be strong. By then, it may not be possible to use some extraordinary props. Can't trade. 17. After darkness falls, players need to survive, and it may be difficult then. At this time, Mia had opened her eyes, with an excited expression on her face. Bai Yi, Mia has become a lot better. She wants to take care of the moonlight tree. Can she go now? I'm afraid that won't work, so let's go play with the phone first. Facing Mia's disappointed look, Bai Yi smiled. I'll let you go after I control the character to return to the shelter, okay? Okay, then Bai Yi, I'm going to play with my phone. Go. Bai Yi gave up and watched Mia leave. Then he went to the kitchen to get a bottle of Coke, then returned to the room and sat on the bed, stretched his body, entered the game and started heading to the Dark Elf town with his character. Today, no matter what, I will take down the Bone Dragon. After running wildly, Bai Yi came to the Dark Elf town again. Standing outside the city wall, Bai Yi took a deep breath and made preparations. After all, when you think about facing the densely packed undead after entering a town, it's impossible not to prepare. How about sneaking to the castle first and dealing with the Bone Dragon directly? Bai Yi touched his chin and muttered secretly. There are a lot of people in the Sea of Undead. If you want to solve them, you will definitely not be able to kill them all today, not to mention that the process of killing the Sea of Undead will definitely attract Bone Dragons. It's better to find a way to get rid of the Bone Dragon first. If it were before, he might not have this confidence, but now that he has the forbidden demon spear, and there is magic power in the bone dragon, as long as he hits it and tightens it, he has a chance to kill the bone dragon instantly with an explosion. Thinking of this, Bai Yi's eyes flickered and he suddenly made a decision. Controlling the character to climb up the city wall, Bai Yi looked around and saw that the undead that had been awakened last time were wandering in the town. The numbers were so dense that Bai Yi lost the idea of solving the sea of the undead first. That's me. If it were any other player, who could avoid these undead? Bai Yi murmured, took a deep breath and took out the staff, then turned his gaze to the distant castle and waved it immediately. Shadows shuttle. With a swish sound, Bai Yi disappeared immediately. When he appeared again, he was already in front of the castle gate. Who? Bai Yi gasped for breath, and his face suddenly became extremely pale. Fortunately, he did not hesitate and chose to use the magic source. As a blue light emerged from the surface of his body, his magic power was restored, and his breathing gradually calmed down. Damn, this feeling is so uncomfortable. I'd better not play like this next time. Bai Yi had a lingering fear on his face. The distance this time was too far, and the still abundant magic power in his body was consumed almost instantly, and there were even signs of draining his life force in turn. Fortunately, there is a skill to restore magic power, otherwise the game would have ended today. Shaking his head oh-too, Bai Yi stopped thinking about it, picked up his phone and continued to control the character, and looked at the castle in front of him. The castle is very big, about 3 stories high. I hadn't noticed it before, but when I got closer, I saw the bone dragon lying on the top of the castle and resting. The knot's a huge body curled up and huddled, purring like a sports car engine. Bai Yi looked thoughtful, considering whether to deal with the bone dragon first or explore the castle. As the former residence of the Dark Elf Queen, this castle must have treasures. What's more, there are still bone dragons resting now. Even if there aren't as many good things as there are in Dragon's Nest, it's not much different when you think about it. However, after pondering for a while, a flash of coldness flashed in his eyes. Sure enough, we still have to deal with this skull dragon first. If there are other monsters in the castle, there will definitely be fighting, and then the bone dragon will definitely be attracted, and then it will be very troublesome. But as long as the bone dragon is dealt with first, nothing will be a problem. Thinking of this, Bai Yi looked around and quickly locked on a nearby stone pillar. With a wave of his staff, he appeared on the top of the stone pillar. Without rushing to take action, Bai Yi first moved his heart and stimulated the surge of magic power. Then he sighed and took out the blood of the dwarf from his backpack. Although I really don't want to use it here, I can only use it just in case. Bai Yi clicks and chooses to use. The precious bottle of dwarf blood was drank directly into his stomach. Suddenly, a feeling of heat arose in my body. The violent fire elemental magic power surged around him. With a bottle of potion, the power of his fire attribute moves will directly increase by 30%. This is definitely a scary upgrade. In addition, as long as the bone dragon is hit with the forbidden demon spear, the bone dragon's magic resistance will be reduced by 50%, which is equivalent to a direct increase of 80%. Bai Yi raised a confident smile at the corner of his mouth and stopped wasting time. With a wave of the staff, the mage's hand immediately condensed. Immediately afterwards, Bai Yi waved again, and the forbidden demon spear also condensed, and without any nonsense, he threw it directly at the bone dragon. Just a whir was heard, and the spear penetrated. As if aware of the danger, Bone Dragon suddenly raised his head, his eyes burning with green will-o'-the-wisps, and looked in the direction of Bai Yi. Roar! Its eyes immediately locked onto Bai Yi, and it roared immediately. But before he could make any other moves, with a pop, the spear arrived and penetrated into the bones of the bone dragon. Dense silver-white lines immediately emerged. The bone dragon was imprisoned. Started roaring and struggling wildly. The powerful force makes it difficult for the forbidden demon spear to imprison it for too long. Bai Yi looked calm, having expected all this, and from the moment the bone dragon began to struggle, he used magic without hesitation. The magic swords were condensed in each of the mage's hands, and they slashed wildly. At the same time, Bai Yi waved his staff. Shadow energy cannon. Holy flame! Holy flame! Another blast of holy flames. One after another powerful magic blasted towards the imprisoned bone dragon crazily, and after being released, Bai Yi continued to use it without stopping. Magical slashes one after another, and 3 consecutive bombardments of sacred flames. The golden flame completely engulfed the bone dragon in an instant and set its whole body on fire. Roar! The blazing high temperature made the bone dragon make painful sounds. What's more, the sacred flame is inherently restrained and more lethal to such undead creatures. It can be seen with the naked eye that many of the bones on the bone dragon's body begin to melt under the flames. The shrill roar also alarmed the undead in the entire Dark Elf town, causing them to run wildly in this direction. But Bai Yi didn't care and kept waving the staff. The golden flames seemed to turn into a sea of fire, completely lighting up the place. With a loud bang, the shadow energy cannon finally exploded. The bone dragon's not-so-huge body was shattered into pieces under the continuous bombardment. Although it did not explode completely, a small part of the body dissipated and turned into a body like a wreckage. The flames are still burning, but at this moment, the imprisonment time of the forbidden demon spear has disappeared. The wings of the bone dragon melted, making it unable to fly, but it obviously had no idea of escape. Instead, it immediately struggled to stand up, opened its bloody mouth, and spurted out a mouthful of dragon breath in the direction of Bai Yi, like the torrent poured out. Rumble! Wherever the torrent passed, the ground turned directly into dead soil and opened huge ravines. Shadow shuttle! Bai Yi waved his staff, dodged the dragon's breath without hesitation, and came to the back of the bone dragon, continuing to display the sacred flames without stopping for a moment. The magic power in the body is flowing crazily. It won't be long before it bottoms out. But Bai Yi felt that it would not be long before this bone dragon died. The next moment, he fired another shot of the forbidden demon spear, and with a bang, the bone dragon penetrated the prison again. Shadow energy cannon! Holy flame! Bai Yi cast the spell again. The blazing, high-temperature flames burned crazily on the bone dragon's body. Bai Yi also deliberately avoided the bone dragon's head, but kept burning its body. Who told him to go back and hand in the mission with the bone dragon's head? But even so, it was enough for bone dragon to feel comfortable. Under the continuous burning, it suffered so much that it turned back to look at Bai Yi, and was swallowed up by a burst of dragon's breath. Shadow shuttle! Bai Yi continued to dodge and continued to cast spells. There was a roar, and finally, as the last blast of sacred flames blasted out, engulfing the bone dragon, the shadow energy cannon also erupted with a violent explosion. The bone dragon's body was blown away and hit heavily in the distance. It still wanted to struggle to get up, but it finally reached the end of its life and fell to the ground under the pain caused by the flames. The green will-o'-the-wisp in its eyes gradually extinguished, completely losing all vitality. Died. This skull dragon is finally dead. Seeing this, Bai Yi couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Damn, it took so long to use the dwarf's blood. If I didn't use it, I would have died in its hands again today. Bai Yi said with lingering fear. It can only be said that the dragon is worthy of being a dragon. Even a bone dragon is too powerful for him now. If it weren't for the 30% increase in power of the dwarf's blood, he would have to spend a lot of time to deal with the bone dragon. But where did he get so much time? In the distance, the sea of undead is coming towards us. If he waits until then, he will probably be swallowed by the sea of undead. Fortunately, it is finally solved now. Bai Yi did not dare to waste time and hurriedly came to the bone dragon's body. He swung his magic sword and cut off its head with a clang, and then waved his hand at the bone dragon's body. The collection is successful. You have obtained the undead crystal core. Close black lens bracket. Undead crystal core. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The special crystal nucleus that can only be born in the body of powerful undead creatures contains rich undead energy and dark atmosphere. Close black lens bracket. Good. Bai Yi took a look, his eyes brightened slightly, and he showed a satisfied smile. After putting it away, feeling the vibration on the ground, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He glanced at the castle behind him and looked helpless, but he still waved his staff, cast a shadow shuttle, and disappeared in this area. 10 seconds later, the undead surged in and engulfed the area densely. But when no enemies were found, they quickly dispersed. Dark elf towns also began to gradually return to calm. Of course, day and night don't know about this. After solving the bone dragon, he just happened to have some magic power and went straight to the other side of the dark elf town, planning to see the place where the demon was sealed. As for the bone dragon skull, of course we can wait until tomorrow. Anyway, the dragon soul can still live for a few days, so there is no rush. With his speed, he could reach dragon soul in half a day if he wanted to. In contrast, he is not more interested in evil. After all, he really wanted a normal recruiter. Look at the ones in your sanctuary. Although there are quite a few, there are 3 of them, but 2 are tigers and 1 is a miniature human. There is no creature of normal size, so it is inevitable that it will be a little weird. Shaking his head, Bai Yi sped up and headed towards the destination according to the information given by the dragon soul 890 years ago, while constantly observing the surroundings, so as not to miss the breath of the undead. A quarter of an hour later, Bai Yi stopped and raised the corners of his mouth with an excited smile. Found it. Looking at the black mist surging ahead and the extremely rich aura of the undead blending into it, there was no doubt that he had reached his destination. Click click click, click click click. His arrival obviously awakened the undead here. Voices rang out one after another, followed by skeleton soldiers roaring. Die! Bai Yi grabbed the void with his right hand, and the demon. The Libao sword took shape, and with one strike, a crescent-like horizontal slash erupted, killing all the skeleton soldiers wherever it passed. Such a scene made Bai Yi couldn't help but feel a little emotional. Not long after I killed the bone dragon, I killed these skeleton soldiers again. It always felt like a brave man had defeated the big devil and returned to the novice village. But, ha ha ha, I just like this kind of crushing pleasure. With a loud laugh, Bai Yi walked forward and entered the land of the dead. There are a lot of undead here, but compared to those in the dark elf town, they are not at the same level. At most, there are only a few hundred skeleton soldiers. Bai Yi solved it easily. Finally, we reached the deepest part of the land of the dead and stopped not far from a dark passage. Is this where the seal is? Bai Yi murmured. Looking at the passage, his eyes flickered. Devil, I don't know what kind of devil it is, but let's not talk about some weird-looking guys. Bai Yi took a deep breath and without hesitation, directly controlled the character to walk towards the passage. The strong aura of the undead spread across the floor. The sound of horse trampling suddenly sounded. An undead knight suddenly rushed out of the passage, screamed, and stabbed Bai Yi straight with his spear. I didn't expect there was an ambush, and it was an undead knight. But unfortunately, if you are the only one, you should just die. Bai Yi's eyes were sharp, he waved his staff, and the sacred flames suddenly erupted, turning into a dragon's head and swallowing it up in an instant. Flames passed. The undead knight was directly burned into powder. There was no resistance at all. Bai Yi curled his lips, showing disdain. My brother is someone who has killed a bone dragon, but he is just an undead knight, not worth mentioning. Holding the staff, Bai Yi continued to walk forward. This time, there was no ambush, and Bai Yi stepped into the passage. The passage leads straight to the ground. There was no danger along the way. That is to say, there are some skeletons on the roadside. They don't look like human beings. They should be demonic ones. However, because they are too old, they break when touched. After walking for 2 or 3 minutes, we finally reached the point. This is a small underground space. Bai Yi's eyes were immediately attracted by what was in front of him, a flash of excitement flashed in his eyes, and he hurriedly walked over. In the middle of this underground room, there is a crystal coffin, and inside the coffin lies a demon. Pink skin, with a heart-shaped tail. Damn, what a succubus. A surprised smile appeared on Bai Yi's face. And looking at her undulating figure, she is still a succubus. That's right. Don't think that there are only female succubi, there are also male ones. Bai Yi is definitely not interested in the male succubus, but he is more interested in the female succubus. However, Bai Yi did not approach rashly, but stood on the side and looked at it. It can be seen from the rising and falling chest of the succubus that she is still alive, but her breath is very weak. Maybe she was once strong, but she may have become weak because she has been sealed for too long. Of course, it may always be this weak. Outside the crystal coffin, there is a dark gas entangling it. This is the breath of the undead. Not surprisingly, it is also the source of the seal. Only by breaking this seal can the crystal coffin be opened. With the succubi in front of him, Bai Yi was not in a hurry and started exploring the basement. Wanted to see if there was anything else. Needless to say, after some searching, he saw a silver treasure chest in the corner, but that was it. Apart from the silver treasure chest and the coffin, it was completely empty. But it would be nice to have a silver treasure chest. Bai Yi was smiling. Anyway, the biggest gain was undoubtedly not the succubus. Rubbing his hands, Bai Yi opened the treasure box with expectation. There was a crash. As the treasure chest opens, light emerges from it. Immediately afterwards, a prompt popped up on the screen. You opened the silver treasure chest, and you obtained Purification Crystal X10, Skill Rune Collision. Close black lens bracket. Hey, Purification Crystal, and Skill Runes. Bai Yi's eyes suddenly flashed with joy. Unexpectedly, two good things were directly released from this silver treasure chest, both of which he needed. Among them, Purification Crystals and Purification Stones have similar effects. They have purification effects and are materials needed to build purification channels. Purification Channel. Close black lens bracket. Description. Special building of the shelter. Close black lens bracket. Materials required. Alloy X100, Glass X10, Purification Stone X10, Purification Crystal X10, Special Material X10. Close black lens bracket. With the Purification Crystal, you can then consider building a purification channel. After all, he has other materials on him. Although some of it was more or less used before, there was still a lot left. As for special materials, it is also easy to choose. Volcanic stone is fine, and it is very suitable for the purification channel. In addition, what surprised Bai Yi was the skill runes. Just by looking at the name, you can tell that this is a skill that is not suitable for mages, but is suitable for warriors. But for Bai Yi, he doesn't necessarily need to use it for himself. He had only thought about what he should get to improve Tiger Mother's strength before, but he didn't expect it to come now. Yes, in Bai Yi's opinion, this skill rune is very suitable for Tiger Mothers. As you can tell from the name, collision means charging towards a place with your physical body. If you don't have a strong physique, you are not suitable for this skill. As a beast, it goes without saying that Tiger Mother is physically strong. Generally, warriors of the same level are not as physically strong as her. But then, something clicked in his mind, and he thought that there was a material in his backpack that seemed to be able to be combined with this skill, so he put it away quickly. Because the synthesis must be done after the game is over. We can only wait until night. I have to say that he was very satisfied with what he found in this silver treasure chest, with a happy smile on his face. Next, he returned to the coffin, calmed down the joy of opening the treasure box, and then began to touch his chin with a thoughtful expression. I don't know how to break it open. It would be great if there were props with this function. Do we need to use skills to forcefully break it? Bai Yi muttered. This seems to be the only feasible way for him. I'm afraid that if I use one skill, I will hurt the succubus inside. According to the news I received from the academy before, the succubus in the coffin in front of me is not an ordinary succubus but has some kind of bloodline. For demons, bloodline represents potential and strength. The better the bloodline, the higher the potential and the stronger the strength. So Bai Yi fell in love with this succubus not because of its yellow color. Yes, that's it. Forget it, there is no other way, let's try it. Bai Yi shook his head, too lazy to think anymore, and was ready to try magic directly. Waving the staff, the sacred flames appeared directly and bombarded the black mist surging around the coffin. Bai Yi deliberately reduced some power so that the flames would not be so raging. There was just a bang, the flames hit the aura of the undead, and a scream like an evil ghost came from the aura of the undead, but then Bai Yi showed a happy smile. Because the breath of the undead has been reduced a lot. It works. Without hesitation, Bai Yi continued to take action. Maintain strength every time so as not to hurt the succubus in the coffin. Boom, boom, boom. With every bombardment, the breath of the undead will be much less than before. After 5 consecutive blasts, there was a clicking sound, like a mirror breaking. The black season around the coffin completely dissipated. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and smiled lightly. It doesn't look like the seal is that good, it was broken immediately. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that due to the passage of time, the seal has now reached an extremely weak level, which is why he can break it so easily. But no matter what, the seal is gone after all. Bai Yi immediately reached out to touch the coffin and pushed it hard. A rumble sounded. The coffin was pushed away. A chill came out. The succubus lay inside without any movement. Hey, wake up! Bai Yi shouted, trying to wake up the succubus. But when the voice fell, the succubus's sleeping expression did not change at all. I pushed it with my hands, but still couldn't wake it up. Could it be that after being sealed for too long, you died of sleep? Bai Yi was helpless. He definitely couldn't explore a place like this with the succubus in his arms. Even taking it back to the shelter would be risky. It doesn't matter if you die, but if you die and the succubus is left halfway, it will be a real loss. Fortunately, this succubus now has no resistance at all. After some thought, Bai Yi decided to try to summon it to reality. Appears with a click. With a swish sound, a white light appeared next to Bai Yi. Immediately afterwards, the light dissipated, and the succubus body appeared beside him, lying quietly on the bed. It's really okay, haha. Bai Yi had a smile on his face. I thought that this kind of creature without self-awareness could not be summoned, but it seemed that I was overthinking it. As long as I didn't resist, it seemed that any creature could be summoned. Tisk, is this the succubus? Bai Yi smacked his lips and couldn't help but look at it carefully. Looking through a screen isn't that careful after all. In reality, it was the first time for Bai Yi to observe a succubus at such a close range. It has to be said that even though she is still in the posture of Sleeping Beauty, the succubus in front of her can't help but exude a charming temperament, making people feel ready to move. All I can say is that she is indeed a succubus. It's a pity that this succubus can't communicate for the time being, and I don't know how long it will take to wake up. Moreover, because you cannot make a contract while sleeping, you cannot view information. Bai Yi was very curious about the bloodline of this succubus. Just from his appearance, he could already tell that this succubus was somewhat extraordinary. The tail of a common succubus is usually black. But the tail of this succubus is as pink as its skin, but there is a faint golden line on it, symbolizing extraordinary. There are many types of demons in the abyss. Succubi are not powerful among demons and belong to the lowest level, but if their bloodline is noble, it is another matter. Because in the abyss, type cannot represent everything, it all depends on blood. As long as the bloodline is good enough, it is not impossible for a little devil who was used as cannon fodder in the abyss to become the lord of the abyss, and other devils will willingly surrender. This is the nature of the devil. Pink skin makes people feel itchy. Bai Yi subconsciously reached out and poked it. Not to mention, it was quite smooth and tender. With the devil in hand, Bai Yi felt much happier. Just in time, prepare lunch first, and then continue the game after eating. Looking at the time, Bai Yi twisted his neck, turned off the game and put down his phone. Before I knew it, it was almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. His stomach started growling at some point. After leaving the room, Bai Yi glanced at the living room, which was as warm as ever. The tiger cub was lying on the sofa, pressing the TV remote control under his paws, constantly switching programs. When he saw a good cartoon, he would stop and watch it attentively. When I see interesting pictures, I will grin from time to time and show a cute smile. Mia used to watch it with it, but now that she has a mobile phone, Mia immerses herself in playing games instead of watching TV. Bai Yi took a look and saw that he was still playing Plants vs. Zombies. With a frown on his face, he probably didn't know how to get through the hurdle in front of him. As for the tiger mother, she was lying lazily on the edge of the sofa, looking casual and comfortable. For a tiger mother who has lived in a dark place for a long time, such a life is as comfortable as she can live, and she will never get tired of it. Bai Yi didn't bother, went to the kitchen and got busy. It took half an hour to prepare lunch and was about to call people to eat. Bai Yi. Mia ran out of the room in fear, threw herself into Bai Yi's arms, pointed to the room with tears in her eyes. Devil, Bai Yi, there is a demon in the room. Well, Bai Yi looked startled, then patted his head. I forgot to tell you. Don't be afraid, I just brought it back. There is no danger. Really? Mia looked up, still very scared. After all, to her, demons are bad guys who do all kinds of evil. Believe me, she will live with us in the future. Bai Yi said gently. What's more, if there is really danger, I will protect you. Hearing this, Mia nodded with relief and happily chatted with Bai Yi. Then, in case of accidents, Bai Yi also told Tiger Mother about the succubus. After everyone knew about it, they happily enjoyed the food. After eating lunch and washing the dishes, Bai Yi returned to the room. The succubus was still sleeping, showing no signs of waking up. Bai Yi is not in a hurry, as long as his life is not in danger, just sleep. Shaking his head, Bai Yi sat next to the devil, picked up his phone, and prepared to start the afternoon game time. But speaking of which, where should we explore next? Bai Yi clicked into the game Li Lao Hao and murmured secretly. We have gone to several places in the dungeon that we should go to. Next, it seems that there are only 2 places left. One is the Dark Elf Town. The second is the Dragon's Nest. Thinking of this, Bai Yi decided to return to the Dark Elf Town after thinking for a while. The Bone Dragon is dead and the castle has not yet been explored. If everything goes well, we should be able to explore the Dark Elf Town today, and then meet the Dragon Soul tomorrow to complete the mission. When the time comes, you can loot the dragon bones again and leave the dungeon. With the decision made, Bai Yi no longer wastes time and controls the character to move forward. After a while, the Dark Elf Town appeared in sight again. Bai Yi climbed up the city wall, looked into the distance, and breathed a sigh of relief. During the previous battle with the Bone Dragon, the Sea of Undead arrived and surrounded the area of the castle. But as time passed, those undead spirits seemed to fade away. Very good. This way, you can go to the castle quietly without attracting the attention of the undead. He really didn't want to fight these undead. Not to mention a waste of time and magic. There really aren't any good materials to collect. Bai Yi took out his staff, waved it lightly, and directly performed the shadow shuttle, and the figure immediately disappeared from the place. When he reappeared, he came to the roof of a house. With the previous lesson in mind, he did not have the idea of traveling to the castle in one go. Instead, he used the shadow to shuttle closer and then slowly touched it. After walking carefully for half an hour, Bai Yi finally arrived at his destination. Looking at the castle in front of him, Bai Yi's eyes flashed with anticipation and he slowly walked in. However, he didn't notice that when he was playing the game seriously, the eyelashes on the face of the succubus beside him were trembling. Powerless. So powerless. Zybel's consciousness returned, and she felt that her body and mind were powerless in an instant. It was as if the entire body had decayed. No strength at all. There was also a feeling of weakness from the inside out, which made her feel like she was not doing well. In a daze, she was a little confused. Perhaps under the influence of time, she became confused. It was as if he had forgotten who he was and where he was. But fortunately, not long after, the memories sleeping deep in her mind woke up one after another, coming like a tide, making her remember everything. Darkness has fallen. The abyss is also inevitable. Her bloodline is special, and she is like a princess in that abyss. Mother said that her future would be to ascend to the gods. But unfortunately, darkness has arrived. Before the darkness fell, her mother seemed to have noticed something, and asked her to leave the abyss and go to the dungeon, desperately escaping to the ground, looking for a safe place to avoid being invaded and infected by the darkness, and thus degenerating into an irrational monster. She followed her mother's instructions, came to the dungeon, and let the demon army launch a war with the dark elves, attracting everyone's attention. He ran towards the exit of the dungeon. But luck was not on her side. During her escape, she encountered a powerful necromancer. The mage was so powerful that she swore that she had never seen such a powerful necromancer even in the land of death. The powerful demons who protected her all became members of the necromancer army and were controlled instantly. And she would have been enslaved by the necromancer and turned into an undead. But maybe he discovered something, or maybe for some reason, the necromancer did not enslave her, but sealed her underground. The power of the undead prevented her from using any power to break the seal, and she could only sleep in the crystal coffin. Time flies. She saw darkness fall completely. I also saw a riot in the dungeon, which eventually calmed down. Several times she wanted to break away from the seal and leave this place. But the power of the seal was too strong, and she had no choice but to fall asleep. In the erosion of time, her strength gradually weakened, and her blood began to sleep. She became extremely weak. Even if the seal is weakened by the erosion of time, she is unable to break it and can only be trapped inside, unable to move. Every time she woke up, she felt weaker. This time, there was no exception. Opening her eyes in a daze, Zybel thought she would see the familiar seal and crystal coffin as before. But what she saw made her stunned. This is where doubts arose in her mind. Pupils twist. The layout of the room comes into view. There is no coffin. There is no seal. I seem to have broken the seal. However, why did he leave the sealed place when he was clearly asleep before? Could it be that someone helped me? Thinking of this, Zybel looked at the figure beside her with his back to her. A human being. Did he save me? Zybel murmured secretly, quickly withdrew her gaze, and secretly tried to mobilize her own strength. But then, her face turned pale. The feeling of powerlessness came again. At the same time, it is also accompanied by endless hunger. So hungry. Her strength was not strong to begin with, and after being sealed for who knows how long, the power in her body was almost completely lost. She is like a withered grass in the desert, in urgent need of water to replenish and recover. And for demons, the best nutrition is. Zybel had no choice but to turn her head and look at the man beside her again, with a hint of unwillingness flashing in her eyes. Do I have to give my first time to this human being? No, I don't want to. Obviously what I want to find is a creature with extraordinary strength. But, I'm so hungry. The endless hunger made her almost lose her mind, and her pupils turned scarlet involuntarily. Even the body is gradually getting hot. It didn't matter when she was sleeping before, because she was being sealed at that time, and everything seemed to be frozen. Except for the flow of power, everything else was frozen. But now she is awake. The physical recovery stems from the needs of her body and soul, which makes her unable to restrain her desires. Unwilling. I am so unwilling to devote myself to a human being, and a seemingly weak human being. But, I'm really hungry. Zybel gritted her teeth and used her last strength to push herself up, looking at Bai Yi with ardent eyes. Even though she tried to restrain herself, her body's desire still swallowed her up in the end. The next moment, she reached out and grabbed Bai Yi's clothes and pulled him over. Bai Yi was caught off guard and fell into her arms. Then, she directly faced Bai Yi's face and lowered her head. This moment, Bai Yi's eyes widened with a look of confusion on his face. Even a little confused. Shouldn't I be playing a game? Why was he suddenly forcibly kissed? This should be considered his first kiss in this life, right? The one who forcibly kissed me seemed to be a succubus, right? When did you wake up? Bai Yi looked at the pink figure in front of him, looking surprised. He looked like he was deeply asleep before, but he didn't expect to wake up while he was playing a game. The most important thing is, do you play like this the first time you wake up? Good, good, worthy of being a succubus. Ha! Suddenly, when Bai Yi was about to resist, he noticed the scarlet, seemingly irrational gaze of the succubus in front of him. At the same time, you can still vaguely feel the magic power in your body, which seems to be flowing away and rushing towards the succubus body. I see. A flash of realization flashed in Bai Yi's eyes, and he finally understood why the succubus in front of him was acting like this. Forget it, since you have been sealed for who knows how long, I'll let you absorb some magic power. Bai Yi spread his hands and smashed them. It's not that I can't resist. I just like to enjoy it. But perhaps because of the absorption of magic power from Bai Yi's body, Zybel's body became even more hungry and thirsty, and her hunger was worse than before. Just like a person who has been hungry for a long time, if there is no food, he can continue to endure hunger, but if he tastes food, he cannot continue to endure it. Zhang Shang desperately eats. Zybaer was like this at this moment. Not only did she use her mouth, but she also used her hands. Bai Yi's eyes widened for a moment, and he looked shocked. What the hell, what are you doing? Just use your mouth. Why do you use your hands when you are so good? Hungry, so hungry. Wait a minute, I know you are hungry, can I cook for you? I'm so hungry. Nima, you don't understand the words, do you? No, wait, I'm not rejecting you, but I'm just closing the door. Looking at the succubus rushing towards him like a madman, Bai Yi was unable to resist and could only use the hand of the mage to close the doors and windows. Outside the room, in the living room, Mia was playing with her phone intently. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked in the direction of Bai Yi's room, showing a puzzled expression. Strange, I seem to hear something. The tiger mother rolled her eyes and did not respond. She just raised her paws and covered the tiger cub's ears under the confused gaze. Hort, don't listen, kid. Time flies. Unknowingly, the sky outside the window became much darker, and it was evening. Bai Yi was lying on the bedside. After a long absence, he took out a pack of cigarettes from the bedside table and lit it. After taking a deep breath, he blew out white smoke rings. In fact, he doesn't like smoking very much, but after all that happened, he always felt that it was a bit uncomfortable not to have one. At the same time, feeling the soreness and numbness in his body, Bai Yi couldn't help but grin, feeling a little lucky. Fortunately, my physique was improved by the butcher's heart before, otherwise I wouldn't be able to be squeezed alive today. From about 1 o'clock in the afternoon to now. Bai Yi looked at his phone and saw that it was after 5 o'clock. Did nothing else. All I can say is, fortunately. Otherwise, it would be a bit funny if he was squeezed dry and died after being reborn. Call. After taking another puff of cigarette and blowing out the smoke ring, Bai Yi turned his head and looked at Zybel, who was lying on his shoulder next to him with a happy face, and asked, "Back to normal?" "Back to normal." Zybel nodded, squinting her eyes, feeling physically and mentally comfortable from the bottom of her heart. Opening her eyes, she looked at Bai Yi, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Speaking of which, I originally thought you were an ordinary person, but I didn't expect you to be a mage, and a mage who contains divine power." Zybel was a little lucky. Although succubi are considered by many people to be debauched and immoral existences, this is actually true. But Zybel is different. The special bloodline she has determines that she can only choose one man, so this man should be strong. Even if he has no strength, he must have enough potential. She originally thought that she was dedicating herself to an ordinary person, but she didn't expect that not only was she not, but she was also given a huge surprise. Hearing this, Bai Yi raised his eyebrows with a puzzled look on his face. "Divine power, what do you mean? Hey, don't you know?" Zybel blinked her eyes, became confused, and explained. "Your body contains pure divine energy. Although it is not much, it is definitely there." As she said this, she seemed to have thought of something, and her expression was enlightened. "That's right. It's normal that you don't know. After all, there is too little divine energy in your body. If there are more people gathered in the future, it will bring you huge benefits. Not only will you become a divine creature, but you may also be able to ascend to the divine level in the future." So smart. Bai Yi's eyes widened and he looked surprised. "But when did you have divine energy in your body? How come I don't know this myself?" Wrong. A ray of light flashed in Bai Yi's eyes, and he immediately began to think. Strictly speaking, it seems that there is. Bai Yi thought of his career. If there is divine energy in his body, the only explanation is that he is a shadow caster. This profession is synthesized from divine materials. It's just that it hasn't been reflected in the profession before. Now it seems that it should be because there is too little energy. I can only say that it is indeed a good thing, and it can also give people a chance to become gods. But I just thought about it. Bai Yi didn't expect much. To put it bluntly, divine energy is too rare and not easy to obtain. In contrast, instead of caring about this, it is better to look at the charm beside you. Where is the devil? Speaking of which, how do you know there is divine energy in my body? Bai Yi asked. Hearing this, the succubus touched her belly and smiled happily. It's very simple, because I can feel it. If it weren't for divine energy, I wouldn't be full so quickly. Bai Yi, depend on. I have feelings among my billions of descendants, right? Fine. Bai Yi twitched the corner of his mouth slightly, took a deep breath of the last cigarette, put out the cigarette butt, and said with a serious face. Anyway, you're full, now it's time to talk about your origins, right? Also, you forced me to sleep. Hearing this, the corners of Zybel's mouth raised, her heart-filled tail slowly swayed, and she chuckled. Grr, you're right, it's really time for me to introduce myself. My name is Zybel, little man, what about you? Little man. Bai Yi grinned. Let me recover for a while. Then we will see if you still dare to call me young. My name is Bai Yi. Bai Yi, I remember. From now on, you are my man. According to human terms, you are my husband. You can't abandon me in the future. I made a big sacrifice. Sibel said with narrowed eyes. Hearing this, Bai Yi looked strange. Strictly speaking, I should be the one who made the biggest sacrifice, right? After all, I don't know how many billions went out this afternoon. Giggle. Sibel obviously understood what it meant, and couldn't help but cover her mouth and smile. After laughing for a while, he said, "That's not what I'm referring to. Don't you feel it? The changes in your body." Huh, physical changes. Don't tell me, Bai Yi really hasn't experienced it much. But when Zybel said this, Bai Yi immediately started to check. The next moment, his eyes widened suddenly and he looked at Sibel, with a shocked look on his face. Sibel smiled and nodded. It seems that you have discovered that, yes, this is my ability, or the ability of my bloodline. Introduction again. My name is Zybel. I am a succubus, but I am not an ordinary succubus, but a rare royal family among succubi, a divine succubus. Charming. Bai Yi repeated Zybel's bloodline, a trace of doubt flashing in his eyes. He knows the royal family. But this is the first time I have heard of Shinmei. But it will be very powerful for sure. The reason is also very simple. Because there is an extra blessing on his personal attribute column. Level 1 Divine Blood Blessing can be upgraded. Magic Recovery Speed plus 10%, Physical Recovery Speed plus 10%, Physical Strength increased by 10%, Magic Power increased by 10%. 1. This blessing is not temporary, but permanently. Just sleeping with the succubus, he actually received a blessing equivalent to an increase in all aspects. This is not something that ordinary succubus can do. The most important thing is that this blessing can actually be upgraded, which is the most outrageous. Bai Yi couldn't help but ask, "Can you introduce Shinmei to me?" Certainly. Zybel raised her red lips and explained with a smile. The divine bloodline originated from the first succubus in the abyss. He was also the first demon to ascend to the divine level with succubus bloodline. He is also the ancestor of all succubi. After the ancestor became a god, the succubus bloodline in his body also evolved and became a god. All succubi who inherit the bloodline of gods and charms have the qualifications to become gods. You should understand what kind of demon a succubus is. In order to improve their strength, succubi are considered a dissolute race in the eyes of ordinary people. But Shinmei is different. Shinmei can only choose one person because of the special nature of his bloodline. Although his strength increases, it is also related to that. The main reason for this is the blessing of divine blood. When you choose a person and sleep with him, the other person will be blessed by the divine blood. Only by lingering with the person blessed by the divine blood can the divine charm increase your strength. As for the blessing of divine blood, you can only choose one person. Therefore, you can understand that the stronger the person you choose to bless with divine blood, the stronger the potential, the faster the strength of Shen Char will increase. Originally, I thought you were an ordinary person, but fortunately you did not disappoint me. You actually have divine energy in your body, which shows that you are extraordinary. So, little man, I will belong to you exclusively from now on. You can't abandon me. Zybel lay on Bai Yi's shoulder, drawing circles with her little hands, and said softly with eyes full of kindness. Hearing this, Bai Yi's face showed a look of surprise. I see. This divine bloodline. To put it bluntly, he is just a bloodline holding his thighs. As long as you choose your thighs, you will have a promising future. If you choose poorly, it will be useless. But for the chosen ones, on the other hand, this can be regarded as a gift. Not only can you get a succubus of your own, but you can also receive the blessing of divine blood. More importantly, as you become stronger, so can the succubus. Because after sleeping, it is equivalent to being bound, which is equivalent to directly obtaining a subordinate who will not betray. If you become a god yourself, this subordinate will also become a god. Thinking about it this way, this bloodline is worthy of being called the bloodline of God. After understanding, Bai Yi looked at Zybel, who looked like a little woman, and couldn't help but smile. I have no intention of abandoning my woman. I will always remember your words. 21. Haha, don't worry and remember it. Bai Yi smiled, hugged Zybel, and asked with a smile. Also, I have another question. Huh, what's the question? With the blessing of divine blood, can it still be upgraded? There was a look of expectation in Bai Yi's eyes. It was only the first level blessing of divine blood, which gave him the feeling of a sudden increase in combat power. If this could be upgraded, I couldn't imagine how terrifying the increase would be in the future. Hearing this, Zybel covered her mouth and smiled sweetly. Have you noticed? Yes, the effect of divine blood blessing can indeed be improved. Bai Yi looked surprised and asked quickly. What's the method? Method? Don't you already know? Sibel said with a smile on her face, meaning something. I already know. Bai Yi looked confused. He kept recalling what happened between him and himself after waking up from Sibel. Immediately his eyes widened suddenly. Depend on. From the time Zybel woke up until now, they have done nothing but sleep. Could it be? Bai Yi looked at Zybel with shocked eyes. Kiki, that's right, it's exactly what you thought. Zybel nodded happily and said. But it's useless just with me. Although it can be improved, it is very slow and takes a long time. You need other goals. Other targets, you mean? Zybel did not answer immediately, but asked another question. Do you know the blessing of divine blood? Why is it called the blessing of divine blood? Bai Yi shook his head, but there was a vague guess in his heart. Blessed by divine blood. I'm afraid it has something to do with the word, sacred blood, right? Sibel said softly. The so-called blessing of divine blood, the most important thing is the two words divine blood in the front. To put it more directly, it is the blessing of the blood of the gods. So if you can find more women with divine blood, your divine blood blessing will increase faster. Of course, it's not just women with god-level blood. Zybel raised her red lips and laughed softly. So can a goddess. Ahem, forget it. Bai Yi touched his nose and quickly rejected it. After understanding the specific situation of the blessing of the divine blood, he couldn't help but have a complex look on his face, and at the same time there was a deep sadness. This blessing is simply more outrageous than I imagined. The upgrade is actually through sleep. Moreover, the target of sleeping is very picky, only women with the same god-level bloodline as Zybel can do it. What's more important is that in addition to the divine blood girl, the goddess can also do it. He finally understood. The succubus is indeed a succubus. Even the royal family in the succubus, the royal family with the qualifications to become gods, cannot escape the characteristics of the succubus. Ordinary succubi sleep with other people. The royal succubus is so powerful, choose one person and let him sleep with others. Damn, it's a bit outrageous just thinking about it. But what can I say, if the chosen person is myself, this feeling will be very satisfying. Ahem. The main reason is that the improvement of strength is very strong. Yes, this is what Bai Yi cares about. After understanding the situation, Bai Yi hugged Zybel and lingered for a while. Don't get me wrong, it was just a chat and asked some things by the way. For example, some situations of Sibel before being sealed. Sibel's strength. In the end, Bai Yi was certain that Zybaer was very weak. Before being sealed, he was considered to have around the 4th level of strength, but with the seal, she became almost like an ordinary person. However, after sleeping with him, her strength recovered and reached the 1st level. In addition, she didn't know much about what happened before the seal, and she was full of curiosity, thinking that one day she could go back to the abyss to see it. I don't know what happened to the abyss after the darkness fell. Of course, what is more important is doubts about reality. Originally, Zybel didn't pay attention to the situation outside the house. Until she caught a glimpse of the bustling night scene outside the window, she couldn't help but open her mouth wide, with a look of shock on her face. This is my world, Bai Yi said, getting drunk. A world about to be invaded by darkness. Hearing this, Zybel was still shocked. You are saying that the world you are in is about to be invaded by darkness, and in order to resist the coming of darkness, your world will allow everyone in this world to go to the dark place to explore and become stronger. Yes, Bai Yi nodded. Sibel was a little unbelievable. But didn't you say that this world is an ordinary world without extraordinary power? Yes, there is indeed no extraordinary power. I don't think it's possible. Sibel frowned. In an ordinary world without extraordinary power, even the will of the world would never have such power. Bai Yi, the world you live in is definitely not simple. Maybe there is some truth that you don't know. Of course, other reasons are not ruled out, but it is certainly not simple. Of course I know this, but what can I do if I know it? Bai Yi shook his head and said casually, I am weak now, and I am not even qualified to think about this kind of thing. Instead of wasting time on this, it's better to strengthen yourself first. 2. Zybal nodded, then looked out the window and couldn't help but sigh. What a wonderful world. As she left the abyss, darkness approached, almost fell. At that time, everywhere, looking up, one could see the endless black tide. That feeling of despair and suffocation is still impressive. Although she is a demon, she feels how beautiful the real world is compared to the dark place. It's a pity that such beauty cannot be preserved for too long. When the darkness comes, it will eventually become a part of the darkness, and then the beauty will no longer exist. Bai Yi didn't bother Zybal, but just picked up the phone and looked at the time with a wry smile on his face. Originally, I wanted to take advantage of the afternoon to explore the dark elf town. Unexpectedly, Zybal suddenly woke up and took him to sleep all afternoon. Now he was fine. He didn't do anything and could only wait until night. Fortunately, there is no gain. In addition to the blessing of the divine blood, at least this afternoon, he and Sibel understood each other very well, and they understood each other clearly from the inside out. From being unfamiliar to being harmonious without any barriers, it only took one afternoon, which was quite good. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, there was a knock on the door, accompanied by Mia's voice. Bai Yi, are you asleep? Nope. Bai Yi put down his cell phone and stood up to get dressed while responding. Zybal also came back to her senses. After a ray of pink light filled her body, she was covered with a loose purple robe, completely covering her body. 0. But the exquisite face combined with the charming temperament, and the pair of jade feet stepping on the floor, made anyone see it, and couldn't help but feel a sense of mystery. After getting dressed, Bai Yi opened the door. Mia suddenly jumped into Bai Yi's arms, took a sniff, and made curious words. Bai Yi, what did you do in the room? Why is there a strange smell? 11. Cough. Bai Yi touched his nose, hurriedly lifted the little guy up, and asked. Children, don't ask random questions. Why don't you tell me why you knocked on the door? Mia said pitifully as the topic was successfully changed. Bai Yi, Mia is hungry. Okay, I'll go prepare dinner for you right away. Bai Yi smiled helplessly and knew this was the reason. By the way, let me introduce you, this is Sibel. Lifting Mia, Bai Yi pointed behind him. Sibel said. Mia subconsciously shrank her neck, a little afraid of the devil. Zybal smiled slightly and said. Flower elf, I didn't expect you could meet such a little guy in a dark place. She can play a big role in such an environment. With that said, she said hello. Hello, I'm Zybal. Hey, hello, my name is Mia. Actually, I'm not as powerful as you say. Mia responded subconsciously. Being praised by Sibel, she felt a little embarrassed. She lowered her head and rubbed her two calves in the air. Seeing this, Bai Yi shook his head and laughed. Walked out of the room. In the living room, Bai Yi introduced Zybaer to the tiger mother and tiger cub. Then Bai Yi went to get busy with dinner. This dinner allowed Bai Yi to understand that demons can also enjoy normal human food, but the taste seems to be spicier. After dinner, Bai Yi took Zybal back to the room, took out a new mobile phone and handed it over. Is this the cell phone you're talking about? Right. Bai Yi nodded, and after giving a hint on how to turn it on, he said. With this thing, you can understand the world faster. Zybal was silent, turned on her phone, suddenly showed a curious expression, and asked. Is this what you used to play the shelter game you mentioned before? Right. Then. Can I download it? Sibel asked expectantly. Hearing this, Bai Yi shook his head. Don't think about it, you can't download it. This game can only be downloaded by people in my world. If you don't believe it, you can try it. 11. Bai Yi has had this idea for a long time, and he has already taken action to let Mia try it. But unfortunately, they couldn't search at all. The same mobile phone can be found in Bai Yi's hand. But it wouldn't work in their hands. Obviously, the will of the earth has already made a solution to this problem. Is that so? What a shame. Bai Yi's words made Zybal's expression darken, but then she felt relieved and began to lie next to Bai Yi and think about her mobile phone. Bai Yi also clicked on the game. When entering the game, his character is standing in front of the castle. With a smile on his face, Bai Yi controlled the character and stepped into the castle. As soon as you enter, you can see that there are many exquisite furniture covered in dust in the castle. In the empty hall, there are several rooms and spiral stairs leading to the second floor. It seems that there is no monster. Bai Yi touched his chin, and after thinking for a while, he simply started exploring from the room on the right. But the first room gave Bai Yi a surprise. As soon as he pushed it open, a bronze treasure box appeared in front of him. Not bad, a good start. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Although it is not silver or gold, there is a treasure chest as soon as you enter the castle, which will inevitably make people look forward to the next step. Let me see what good stuff I can come up with. After rubbing his hands, Bai Yi came to Baochan and stretched out his hand to open it. Wow, the light shines. Immediately afterwards, a prompt popped up on the screen. You opened the bronze treasure chest and obtained an intermediate magic potion X1 and an iron sword. Close black lens bracket. Tisk, it's just magic medicine that won't work. Bai Yi couldn't help but curled his lips when he saw what was found in the treasure box. A bit average, but at least there is a bottle of magic potion, which is not considered garbage. Bai Yi has no shortage of magic power now, but the magic potion in Bai Yi's hand is not only for drinking, but also as a synthetic material. 283. Bai was very interested in magic medicine, especially when he had similar synthesis experience before. As for the iron sword, rubbish. Bai Yi threw it into the trading store without any hesitation, waiting for someone to buy it. After opening the treasure chest, I continued to explore the room day and night. However, there was nothing else in the first room except the treasure chest, so Bai Yi could only go to the second room. The second room was in a mess without any valuable items, so Bai Yi went to the third room again. There are 7 rooms in the entire first floor hall. It's a pity that the third and fourth rooms seemed to belong to that kind of servant's room, so he gained nothing. As for the fifth room, Bai Yi found some materials in it, such as stone, wood and other basic resources, as well as iron, copper, etc. The quantity was not large, and it should be a small warehouse dedicated to storing such resources. After putting all the things in his backpack, Bai Yi walked to the 6th room. As soon as he opened the door, a resentful spirit rushed over with a scream. Good guy, open the door to bring warmth, right? Bai Yi twitched the corner of his mouth, but his reaction was extremely quick. He condensed the magic sword in his hand and struck out with one sword. With a tearing sound, the resentful spirit was killed on the spot. Then he walked into the room. What came into view were the skeletons of dark elves. No wonder there are resentful spirits. Bai Yi shook his head and searched carefully. He found no trace of the treasure chest. But a mithril ring was found on a skeleton. Mithril ring. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Magic jewelry made of mithril is the main material. After inputting magic power, you can trigger the magic in it and obtain a magic shield to protect yourself. Close black lens bracket. Hey, an extraordinary item. Bai Yi looked startled, and then a happy smile appeared on his face. The ability of this ring is actually very average. Because apart from a shield, there is no other effect. But in Bai Yi's opinion, this ring is just right. So many skills have been synthesized, but no suitable materials have been found for absorbing shields. I didn't expect this to happen now. Raising the corner of his mouth, Bai Yi immediately clicked on his skill bar, preparing to synthesize it directly. This ring comes with a shield skill. In a way, this synthesis can be regarded as a synthesis of skills, and they are all shields. Combining 2 shields can make the shield's defense stronger, right? Thinking of this, Bai Yi clicked to select Absorption Shield plus Mithril Ring. Start compositing. Light appeared on the screen again, and the 2 items merged into one in the light. The synthesis is successful. You have obtained the Absorption Shield. Close black lens bracket. Absorption Magic Shield. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. After consuming magic power, you can condense a magic shield that covers yourself or an area. The magic shield can block the enemy's attack, absorb part of the power, and then return it back. Close black lens bracket. Ha ha ha, not bad. Watching the introduction of new skills, Rie had a smile on his face. The newly synthesized skills have obvious effects. From a single shield to a group shield. And it can actually absorb damage and return it back, which is a huge improvement. It's just right. Let's combine the skills that we want to give to Tiger Mother. Bai Yi thought of the collision skill rune he got today, and clicked to select it again to combine. And when combined with the collision skill runes, Bai Yi already had a choice. It was the rock blood clot that I got when I killed the rock giant in the pyramid ruins. It would be fine if there were a lot of this material, but there is only one. If it is left in the backpack, it cannot be used as a building material and put into construction. So it can only be synthesized. There was nothing suitable for synthesis before. Bai Yi thinks the current collision skill is quite suitable. After selecting, click Combine. Synthesis successful. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the skill rune Rock Charge. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Condensing a hard rock shield on the body surface and charging towards the enemy, hitting everything encountered along the way. Close black lens bracket. 05. This skill, how should I put it, seems to be pretty good. Compared with the previous collision, this skill adds a shield to the collision, which is safer than the pure collision skill. After all, the collision skill is a direct impact without any protection. After the impact, maybe a bunch of skills will be encountered. After synthesis, even if you are still greeted by a bunch of skills, at least you have a rock shield as protection. And thinking about it, after synthesis, the power will be much stronger than before. Bai Yi immediately got up and walked towards the living room and found Tiger Mother. Tiger Mother, look, I'm here to give you something good. Roar. The Tiger Mother raised her head with a puzzled expression. Hey, look. Bai Yi took out the skill runes and said with a smile. This thing contains a kind of power. After you use it, you can gain a skill and become more powerful. Hor, really or not? Tiger's mother's eyes widened, and Tiger's face was full of shock. Of course it's true. Come on, I'll teach you how to use it. Bai Yi put the skill rune on Tiger Mother's paw. Under Bai Yi's guidance, the skill rune quickly turned into a ray of light and flowed into Tiger Mother's body. It's actually true. With a surprised roar from the Tiger Mother, it immediately felt the extra energy in its body. Subconsciously, he wanted to urge it, but Bai Yi quickly stopped him. Don't. Tiger Mom, don't play like this. This is our home. You don't want to sleep in the cold and windy wilderness at night, do you? Bai Yi said helplessly. Just kidding. With the size of a Tiger Mother, if she uses her skills to hit her, not to mention the wall of her own house, she would have to break a big hole in the next door. Roar. The Tiger Mother nodded coquettishly, a little embarrassed, but then she hugged Bai Yi's head with her two paws, rubbed it gently, and expressed her gratitude. For the beast, becoming stronger is a very happy thing. The stronger you are, the better you can survive. Even extraordinary beasts still have this mindset. What an amazing item. Zybel followed Bai Yi out of the room. Seeing this scene with her own eyes, she couldn't help but marvel. Even though I had received the corresponding introduction from Bai Yi before, I still felt unbelievable. It's like an ordinary person is frantically learning a foreign language for work, and then you suddenly meet a player and learn that you are an NPC, and the player also needs to learn a foreign language, but the difference is that it takes you several months' time. Players just need to click to learn and they will learn directly. Bai Yi heard the sound and couldn't help but turn around and forget about it. After seeing the look on Zybeyer's face, he patted his head. Speaking of which, I don't know your specific abilities yet. Tell me about it, so that when I encounter some suitable props or items in the future, I can keep them for you. Hey, is that okay? Sibel asked in surprise. Certainly. Bai Yi nodded, raised the corner of his mouth and walked over with a smile, hugged Zybel's soft waist and smiled. You are my woman. Hearing this, Zybel pursed her lips and looked at Bai Yi's beautiful eyes, and suddenly she felt a little hungry. However, thinking that Bai Yi still wanted to play games, Zybel suppressed her hunger and decided to talk about it at night. At the same time, she also introduced her abilities to Bai Yi. As a divine enchantment, a member of the royal family among succubi, her abilities are similar to those of succubi. Charm, abyss magic. But as a divine charm, I still have the ability to control emotions, but because my strength has dropped too much, this ability cannot be easily used now. Hearing this, Bai Yi looked surprised and asked quickly. Wait a minute, you said you still have the power of emotions. Yes. Zybel nodded, licked her lips, and smiled. After all, you know, I am a succubus, and in the end, as long as the succubus becomes stronger, he will gain this ability and use it to become stronger. Of course, the difference between me and ordinary succubi is that as my strength increases, controlling emotions will directly become controlling desires, and even controlling the mind. In order to prevent Bai Yi from misunderstanding, Zybier explained again. However, this ability is not very powerful, because the only emotion the succubus can control is happiness. Tisk, tisk, I would have forgotten if you didn't tell me, ha ha ha. Bai Yi nodded, then laughed, quickly pulled Zybel back to the room, and took out a heart from the game backpack. It is the heart of those who grieve. This was synthesized previously. It has never been used against Bai Yi, and I can't bear to use it to synthesize it. Unexpectedly, it comes in handy now. As Sibel said, the ability of the succubus to control emotions is not very powerful. Because what can you do with the emotion of happiness? Make people happy all the time. People may be eager for you to do this. The most important thing is actually having this ability. It doesn't matter whether you are strong or not. For the succubus, you only have it now. As the strength increases, this ability will be promoted just like the player's profession. Becomes a desire to control. Then control the mind. To the end, he can completely control people with just one thought. As for the heart of the sorrowful, not surprisingly, it happened to be useful to Zybel. Because this thing is specially used by beings who can control emotions. But Bai Yi was not very sure, so he asked, "How's it going? Is this useful to you?" Sibel didn't reply. Instead, he stared closely at the heart of the sad person in front of him, his eyes involuntarily flashed with excitement, and he subconsciously showed a fiery color. 5.8 In fact, the moment she took out the heart of the sad one, she couldn't look away. After hearing Bai Yi's words, he couldn't help but nodded and said happily, "I feel the desire from the body. If I use it, I will become stronger. Bai Yi, can use it. Give to me. Of course, this was originally prepared for you." Bai Yi nodded with a smile and handed the heart of the sad to Zybel. Such an unhesitating gesture made Tibel's eyes even more gentle and watery. Taking over the heart of the sad one, Zybel raised her red lips, couldn't help but push Bai Yi down, and lowered her head for a kiss. Bai Yi was a little confused. Sibel whispered, "Bai Yi, I will repay you." The charming temperament exuded involuntarily, making Bai Yi touch his nose subconsciously. "Ahem, how can I repay you?" "You'll find out tonight." Zybel glanced at Bai Yi provocatively, without explaining, but just picked up the heart of the sorrower and started using it. But Bai Yi had already taken a deep breath. His intuition told him that there would be a bloody battle tonight. "I don't know if I can withstand it." Bai Yi touched his waist subconsciously. This is a succubus. The battle in the afternoon made Bai Yi understand what it means to have only tired oxen and no plowed land. But as a man, how can you say that you are not good enough? Bai Yi took a deep breath, and a look of determination immediately appeared in his eyes. Even if he can't stand it, he has to. Tonight, he will let this succubus see the tail of a human male. As Sibel used the heart of the sorrower, the heart suddenly merged into her body like water, turning into dark blue light, covering Sibel's whole body. Bai Yi looked at it thoughtfully, then picked up his phone and played a game. After exploring the 6th room, Bai Yi controlled the character to go to the 7th room. The last room on this floor is a utility room. There is a lot of debris accumulated inside. You picked up linen X100. Close black lens bracket. You picked up 100-year-old wine X15. Close black lens bracket. You picked up wood X100. Close black lens bracket. You picked up the rope X100. Close black lens bracket. You picked up linen X100. Close black lens bracket. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. That's okay, although there's nothing good, but these basic resources and sundries can never be too much. Bai Yi nodded and controlled the character to leave the room. The 7 rooms on the 1st floor have basically been explored. There is nothing good in the remaining living room, so the next step is to go to the 2nd floor. But this time, the light on Sibel's body next to her began to dissipate. With a faint smile on his face, he slowly opened his eyes. After subconsciously looking at her hands, Zybel looked up at Bai Yi. She couldn't help being excited, so she rushed over and hugged Bai Yi's head, and had a French love. After a long time, the two separated. Bai Yi was angry. "It seems like this heart has brought you a lot of gains." "Yes." Sibel nodded and said happily. This is simply a precious treasure. Even I had never heard of it when I was in the abyss. It actually gave me the power to control my sad emotions. Sorrow. A glimmer of light flashed across Bai Yi's eyes and he asked curiously. You said before that you only have the emotional power to make people happy. Now there is sadness, but it makes you so happy. Oh, too, does this mean anything? Certainly, Sibel said happily. I've said it before, the important thing is not how strong this ability is, but that I have this ability. Because I am a succubus. If I master an emotion when I am weak, I can master a desire when I am strong. But generally speaking, succubi can only control happiness, and even I, as a succubus, are no exception. But now, I have mastered the emotion of sadness. Sibel's eyes flashed with excitement and she said, do you know what this means? Bai Yi. Bai Yi shook his head. This means that when I am strong, happy emotions will make it possible for me to master the power of lust. And sadness makes it possible for me to master the power of laziness. This is the power of desire. Each one is very powerful. In the past, I could only master one, but now, I can master two. Perhaps in the future, it may be possible to become a demon king. Having said this, Zybel couldn't help her excitement and pounced on Bai Yi again, having another French love affair. All of this was brought to him by this man. When he woke up from the seal, he not only encountered a man with divine energy in his body, but he also brought such powerful power to himself. Zybel was so happy that she could hardly help herself. Bai Yi asked helplessly, pushing away the charmer who took a fancy to her beauty. What does Demon King mean? Isn't it possible for you to become a god? Why do you still care about becoming a demon king? This is different. Zybel was in a very happy mood and always smiled when explaining. There is no conflict between becoming a demon king and becoming a god. On the contrary, becoming a demon king first and then becoming a god will make you more powerful. I'm not sure exactly, but my mother told me that all demons in the abyss who are qualified to become gods will aspire to become demon kings. Originally I didn't have this hope, but now I have it. I see. Bai Yi suddenly realized. No wonder Zybel was so happy. Make yourself happy too. There is a brighter future to look forward to, who doesn't love this? After shaking his head and chuckling, Bai Yi was quite curious about the emotional power controlled by Zybel. He immediately wanted to try it and let Han Baer use the power of emotions on him. Bai Yi didn't resist and gave it a try. How to say? Happiness is true happiness. Sad is really sad. Happiness will make Bai Yi smile involuntarily. And this kind of happiness is not only spiritual, but also physical, a bit of a double feeling. As for sadness, she cried loudly on the spot, her eyes immediately turned red, and without any pause, she started to shed tears. After experiencing it, Bai Yi couldn't help but rub his eyes that were a little sore from crying, and said in a surprised tone. These two abilities of yours don't seem to be as weak as you think. In battle, sometimes it should play a key role. Especially sadness. Bai Yi experienced it personally and his tone was very affirmative. If during a battle, a sad mood passes and the enemy wails loudly on the spot, it will definitely affect the movement and create an opportunity for a critical strike. Really, I think it's quite ordinary, but you can just find it useful. Sibel was all smiles. Next, she became familiar with the improved power, while Bai Yi started playing games. Controlling the character, he headed to the second floor. There are also 5 rooms on this floor. The living room is relatively empty. At first glance, there are no precious items. So we can only search for rooms directly like on the first floor. The first 3 rooms are basically just materials, there are no treasure chests or precious items. But in the 4th room, a bucket of water was found, which made Bai Yi look surprised. Is this moon water? Looking at the fluorescent purified water in the bucket, Bai Yi couldn't help but smile. Good stuff. Moon water is also a treasure among the elves, and is as rare as the water of life. Speaking of which, there are really many good things in the elves. The main reason is that there are many branches of the elves. In addition to normal elves, such as nature elves, forest elves, etc., many branches are also very strong, and they also have many good things. Of course, many good things come from God. The Moonwell is said to be a magical building given to the elves by the moon goddess. Energy continuously produces moon water. As a gift from the gods, moon water has particularly amazing effects. Open black lens bracket moon water. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The well water from the Moonwell is very precious. It is the holy water of the Dark Elves. After taking it, it can restore magic power, heal injuries, and expel some curses. It is rumored that it also contains the divine power of the Moon Goddess. It is an essential material for many precious and powerful potions. There is a legend that if you take moon water, you have a chance to be summoned by the Moon Goddess. Close black lens bracket. After reading this introduction, you can tell how powerful the effects of moon water are. Not only can it heal injuries and restore magic power, it can even exorcise curses. It is also required for the crafting of many powerful potions. It even contained the power of the Moon Goddess, which made Bai Yi's eyes brighten up all of a sudden. Divine power. I wonder if it can be used to synthesize professional runes. Ever since he learned about the function of divine energy from Sibel, Bai Yi has taken aim at this thing. This is the way to become a god. Who can say no? Even if the chance is slim, as long as there is a chance, Bai Yi doesn't want to give up. I just don't know if divine power is useful. Thinking about it, Bai Yi looked at the legend about moon water at the end of the introduction, touched his chin and thought about it, and finally looked at Tibble beside him. Zybel, do you know about moon water? Moon water. Sibel's eyes lit up and she asked. Are you talking about the water from the Moonwell? The rumored gift from the Moon Goddess? Yes. Bai Yi nodded and asked. It is rumored that people who take moon water may meet the Moon Goddess. I want to ask you if you know whether it is true or false. I think in this regard, you have a more suitable candidate than asking me. After all, I am not an elf, I am a devil. You mean Mia? Bai Yi suddenly remembered that there was an elf in his home. Although she is a flower elf, she is still an elf. You should know whether the legend of moon water is true or false. If it is true, Bai Yi really wants to try to see if he can see the Moon Goddess. Bai Yi didn't know much about gods, but he knew that the Moon Goddess was a righteous god. If you can see the gods, you can sometimes receive blessings. Of course, without the blessing of divine blood, Bai Yi wouldn't have the courage, ahem. With an expectant smile on his face, Bai Yi immediately went to the living room to find Mia and asked. As a flower elf, Mia knew the rumors about moonwater and immediately gave the answer. It is true, but it all depends on the wishes of the goddess. And after darkness falls, no one knows whether the Moon Goddess is alive or asleep. So whether he can see the goddess or not is completely unknown. But Bai Yi doesn't care about this, as long as he knows it's true. With such a big bucket of water, you can at least drink hundreds of sips, which is equivalent to more than 100 opportunities. As long as the goddess is not dead or asleep, how can you see it once? Bai Yi grinned. After carefully collecting the moon water, Bai Yi continued to explore the last room on the second floor. Open the door, no monster attacks. The room was dimly lit. But you can vaguely tell that this is a study room, with rows of bookshelves filled with books. Suddenly, Bai Yi looked suspicious and looked in the direction of the desk. There seemed to be a figure sitting there. It was like seeing a ghost while watching a horror movie, which made Bai Yi feel scared. But soon, he calmed down. That is not a living creature. But, a corpse. And it's no ordinary corpse. 807 seems to be the body of the Dark Elf Queen. Bai Yi controlled the character and walked over. After looking at it carefully, he couldn't help but nod. It's really the corpse of the Dark Elf Queen. He confirmed. Only, from the news I got from Kofi, I thought the Dark Elf Queen had already fled with many Dark Elf, but I didn't expect that she actually stayed and died in the castle. 11. Although he had never seen the Dark Elf Queen, he could tell that the clothes on this corpse were so luxurious that ordinary Dark Elf could not wear them. As a matriarchal society, the Dark Elves have strict hierarchies. And unlike the general elves who are friendly to each other and love each other, among the Dark Elves, the Queen is supreme. Whenever something dissatisfactory happens, they will be severely punished, and they will be beaten to death at every turn. Therefore, ordinary Dark Elves would not wear this luxurious clothing, nor would they dare to wear it. Only the Dark Elf Queen can do this. In addition to the Queen's body, Bai Yi also found a silver-white treasure box under the desk, which made his eyes appear with joy. With a wave of his hand, Bai Yi collected all the books on the bookshelf without hesitation, and then prepared to drag the treasure box out from under the desk. But at this time, a letter covered by a book on the desk caught Bai Yi's attention. Especially when there is a pen beside the letter. It looks like it was a letter written by the Dark Elf Queen before she died. Curious, Bai Yi picked up the envelope and clicked to view it. The above content begins to appear in front of my eyes. But the opening was struck by lightning. I am the Dark Elf Black Mountain Clan, the Dark Elf Queen, Frida. Following the goddess's instructions, I committed suicide and died. The power of the goddess will prevent my body from being contaminated by darkness. 21. Following the goddess's instructions, I leave a letter here. This letter is for you, future generations. No matter who you are or what race you come from, if you can come here and see this letter, it means you are lucky enough. After all, I think by the time you read this letter, darkness has already fallen. I'm afraid that little dragon will also fall, right? Can you come to the dungeon at this time and kill that little dragon? The person Xiaolong saw this letter must be no ordinary person. Quote. So, I have a request, and I hope you can agree to it. This matter is also the order of the goddess. When you are finished, the goddess will reward you generously. Magic City. The night is dark. On both sides of the suburban highway, figures were lying on the ground, blending into the night to hide their figures. Nimeng was also among them, quietly staring ahead. Suddenly, a voice rang from the walkie-talkie in his hand. Captain, the target has arrived and is heading towards you. Okay, I get it. Nimeng responded and immediately gave instructions to the people around him. Ready to fight. After saying that, everyone took out their weapons and firearms. A long bow appeared in Nimeng's hand, and at some point, a glimmer of light began to gather in his eyes as he stared at the road closely. After a while, there was the sound of a car. 3 cars appeared in a line, driving towards this side at extremely fast speeds. Stop them. Nimeng gave the order without any hesitation. Bang bang bang. Countless gunshots rang out on both sides of the road, and countless bullets flew away. With the firepower nearby, if nothing unexpected happens, these 3 cars will be beaten into pieces almost instantly. But at the moment when the gunfire rang out, a blood-red light suddenly erupted from the car in the middle, as if it turned into a cover and enveloped all 3 cars. The bullet landed on the cover with a bang, and if it hit a hard wall, it would not penetrate at all. Damn, Captain, these guys have superpowers. A night watchman's voice sounded worried on the intercom. The people in the car were members of the bloody sect lurking in the Magic City. In order to catch them all in one fell swoop, from the moment they got the news about Bai Yi, the entire Magic City official staff moved into action to investigate the opponent's location. And in order to prevent fighting in the urban area and accidentally injuring ordinary people, we deliberately chose today, a night when the members of the bloody sect were preparing to leave, to take action. It can be said that they are fully prepared and everything is foolproof. But I didn't expect that the people of these bloody sects even have extraordinary defensive powers. If this got away from them, the night watchman in the Magic City would probably become a joke. Many people looked anxious and even fired rocket launchers at the car. There was a loud explosion. But the blood-colored cover only had ripples and cracks, but was still not broken. Under the protection of the cover, the car is still running at high speed. Nimeng said coldly, "Don't worry, they can't leave." After the words fell, Nimeng knocked the arrow and drew the bow. A ray of cold light appeared in his eyes, and then, a ray of thunder immediately attached to the arrow. With a whoosh, the arrow flew out, roaring out like a bolt of thunder, instantly penetrated the bloody cover, and directly hit the car at the front. There was a bang. Under the thunder arrow, the car exploded directly, bursting out with brilliant sparks, blocking the road ahead. Seeing this, the 2 cars behind could only stop. A blood-robed figure walked out of it with a gloomy expression. The leader of the bloody sect said solemnly, "Fight and kill them. Since you don't want us to leave, then let them become sacrifices to my god." The voice fell. He raised his hand first, and the bloody light gathered, like a laser light, and instantly hit a night watchman. The powerful destructive power directly penetrated him, killing him on the spot. Zhang Chang. Many people glared and roared angrily, picked up their firearms and opened fire wildly on the road, with bullets pouring out. The bloody cover was shattered by the thunder arrows. Under the outpouring of firepower, Several people in blood-robed robes were beaten to a pulp on the spot. But other members of the blood sect also reacted quickly, waving their hands, forming bloody shields in front of them, and began to fight back. Bloody rays of light escaped and struck both sides of the road. The powerful power is simply not something that ordinary people's bodies can withstand. Anyone who is hit will die on the spot. Ni Meng shot out an arrow and instantly penetrated the head of a bloody sect member. Besides her, there are many people on the Night Watcher's side who have extraordinary abilities. Although he is not a professional, he has more or less skills and extraordinary items. I saw brilliant attacks appearing one after another, hitting the members of the bloody sect. The bloody leader Yu Shen once again erupted with a bloody holy light and killed one person, but unexpectedly it was offset by a fireball. These damn guys. Quote, I originally thought that after leaving the Magic City today, I would quickly flee the country, but I didn't expect that they would notice it and set up an ambush. Looking at the fully prepared official members of Daxia, his thoughts turned and he didn't want to die here. As a senior member of the bloody sect, he has more important tasks to complete. Therefore, in the blink of an eye, he immediately shouted. Everyone, we were ambushed and cannot leave, but everything is for the sake of our great God. Go, let them see the power of my God, and delay time for me. I must leave alive. Yes, after receiving the order, the remaining members of the bloody sect showed fanaticism on their faces and rushed towards both sides of the road crazily. At the same time, bloody lines began to appear on their bodies. Seeing this, many officials' expressions changed suddenly and they distanced themselves without hesitation. Sure enough, the next moment, there was a bang, and a member of the bloody sect exploded, causing a huge noise. But because he dodged in advance, no damage was caused. Seeing this, Ni Meng breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I got the information from Bai Yi. But as the first explosion sounded, followed by the second and third, someone ducked. But some people were too late to distance themselves and were blown to death alive. The members of the bloody sect had no fear whatsoever and rushed towards them with complete thoughts of suicide. It's all for my God. Ha ha ha, go to hell and become a sacrifice to my God. For my God, I did it. Boom, such a crazy scene made many officials feel scared. Don't be afraid, just kill them before they explode. Ni Meng shouted, and shot out an arrow, killing a cultist who was about to explode. Sure enough, after his death, the cultist did not explode again. Seeing this, everyone else's eyes lit up and they followed suit. But the next moment, Ni Meng's eyes fell on the senior member of the bloody sect. The other party kept standing there, took out a scroll from his backpack and tore it apart. A bloody light appeared on the scroll, covering him. A magic circle appeared under the feet, as if something was starting, flashing continuously. This is. Ni Meng seemed to have thought of something and shouted immediately. Damn it, that's the teleportation scroll of the blood sect. Stop him and don't let him teleport away. After hearing this, many people's expressions changed. They were the top leaders of the bloody sect. The main purpose of this operation was the other party. If the other party escaped, they would have failed this time. What's more, if the other party leaves, they might take action against ordinary people in order to retaliate against them. After all, this is a cultist, and a crazy cultist who can do anything. Ha ha ha, it's useless, you can't stop me. Naturally, the upper echelons of the bloody sect heard what Ni Meng said, but they didn't show the slightest fear. Instead, they laughed maniacally. Countless bullets and shells bombarded him. But the moment he got close to him, a bloody light appeared on his body, blocking all attacks. The blood mist formed by the explosion of the believers' bodies continued to gather around him, pouring into the magic circle under his feet, and the light on the magic circle flickered faster and faster. Damn it, don't even think about leaving. Ni Meng gritted his teeth and shot out another arrow. The lightning raged and roared away. There was a bang. The arrow came and hit the shield. Just hearing the sound of clicking, cracks immediately appeared in the shield. But it was not broken after all. And at the same time, the magic circle was finally activated. The top blood cultist sneered. Everyone, I have remembered what you did today. Please don't worry, I will return it all to you. The words fell. With a swish sound, blood light surged out of the magic circle and enveloped him directly. Then, the blood light dissipated, but his figure also disappeared from the spot. Damn, Meng cursed angrily, his face extremely ugly. Unexpectedly, the other party ran away in the end. No, it's not over yet. The bloody sect has made official files, and many information about the cult has been officially recorded, including the teleportation scroll used by the opponent just now. Meng took a deep breath, cheered up, and said in a deep voice. The teleportation scroll cannot teleport too far. There are other ambushes we have set up ahead. The other party must have guessed it and will not teleport forward. It may only be within the city. So please tell me to go down and leave a group of people to count the casualties and clean up the scene. Everyone else will follow me back to the city to investigate. Today, he must die. Yes. 21. Everyone responded and took action immediately. At the same time, in the Magic City, in a community. It's quiet at night. In a certain corner, blood filled the air, and then a figure appeared out of thin air. Ahem. Those damn guys. As soon as he appeared, he kept coughing, his face was extremely pale, and blood overflowed from his mouth. That scroll is indeed a treasure, an item given by God. Unfortunately, the side effects of using it are too great. Not only does it need to absorb a large amount of blood, it also absorbs the blood of the user. Just one teleportation left him in a state of serious injury. Those guys should have guessed that I have returned to the city and will definitely come to investigate. I have to find some people immediately to absorb some blood to recover from the injury. Said. He raised his head and looked at the tall buildings around him, with a ferocious smile on his face. Very good, it's good here. Since you don't want me to leave the demon city, then let this place turn into a bloody soil and speed up the arrival of my god. When the time comes, I hope you won't regret it. The words fell. A passerby came towards me, a cold smile appeared on his face, and he immediately walked over. Bai Yi had no idea about this. At this time, in the room, Bai Yi looked at the mobile phone screen, his pupils gradually contracted, with a little shock. On the screen was the content of the letter left by the Dark Elf Queen. That's why he was shocked. Before the darkness came, the goddess had a premonition, sent down an oracle, and gave divine objects. The divine object was placed on the top floor of the castle by me. In order to prevent the divine object from being taken away by some polluted beings, I lured a descendant of a black dragon and killed it here. When the darkness falls and the dark atmosphere spreads, it will turn into an undead and be transformed by the gods. Because of the breath of things, there is a permanent guard here. My request is that you can take away the sacred object and protect it. This is the hope for the survival of the dark elves. Future creatures, go ahead and take away the divine object. May the goddess protect you. Read the contents of the letter. Bai Yi Didi Jiao fell into silence. After a while, he came back to his senses and took a deep breath. There is actually a divine object here. He was in a state of shock. He didn't know what the fetish was. But since it is given by God, it is conceivable that it will not be simple. Of course, what made him even more unexpected was that the descendant of the dragon soul would actually be lured here by the Dark Elf Queen. No wonder he would appear here. I don't know if the dragon soul will be angry and resurrected if it knows about it, and destroy the body of the Dark Elf Queen with a breath of dragon breath. In short, after the shock, Bai Yi couldn't help but shine with excitement in his eyes, and he couldn't wait to control the character to leave the room and walk upstairs. I almost forgot to open the silver treasure chest. Only halfway through did he remember, and he quickly returned to the room, ready to open the treasure chest. But at this moment, Bai Yi seemed to notice something and suddenly looked up in the direction of the living room door. Sibel, who was playing with her mobile phone at the side, did the same. Sniffed the tip of his nose. The two looked at each other. Sibel said softly, "It smells of blood. I smell it." Bai Yi nodded and raised the corners of his mouth. Interesting, with such a strong smell of blood, is it a murderer? Or is it a player? Moreover, is this an initiative to give away someone's head? The words fell out of breath. In the living room, there was a knock on the door. Zybel smiled sweetly and looked at Bai Yi. "I think so." Bai Yi laughed in surprise. "Well, I really came to kill someone. No matter who it is, since they are here, they must not let them go. I am a citizen of Sanhao." Bai Yi thought to himself. Outside the house, the leader of the bloody sect was standing at the door, his eyes flashing with contemplation. Kill a few more people and absorb their blood, and I should be able to recover. At that time, with the help of the holy objects given by God, this area will be transformed into blood and soil, which will hopefully speed up the arrival of our God. Although I will die, as long as my God comes, I can be reborn again. Thinking of the greatness of the gods in memory. A flash of fanaticism couldn't help but flash in his eyes. But he soon calmed down. The most urgent task is to kill people first, draw blood, and restore oneself. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look impatient as he looked at the closed door in front of him. Why is this family so slow to open the door? Damn thing, wasting my time. If I hadn't been afraid of attracting too much attention and causing people to run away, I would have broken in. But it doesn't matter. I will torture you when you open the door. He grinned, showing a cruel smile. That's when. With a click, the door opened. The senior executive of the bloody sect wore a ferocious smile. His right hand turned into a blood claw, and he swung forward without hesitation, intending to kill the guy who opened the door. There was a bang. His expression suddenly changed. The moment he took action, a shield appeared. His powerful blow landed on the shield, unable to break it at all. I asked who it was. I thought it was a murderer or something, but I didn't expect it to be you dirty guys. The words of the sneer were heard, causing the pupils of the senior members of the blood sect to shrink, and a look of shock appeared on their faces. It's you, Bai Yi, he couldn't help but exclaim, and his face turned gloomy almost instantly. He had tested Bai Yi before. Although he was not the one to take action, he had naturally seen Bai Yi's photos and remembered Bai Yi's appearance clearly. But he never expected that the family he randomly found was Bai Yi's home. If the situation wasn't right at this moment, he would really want to curse. The bloody sect had just taken action against Bai Yi before. Both sides are enemies. Why doesn't this come to your door? And his current condition is not very good. You know. Another voice sounded, and behind Bai Yi, Zybel slowly walked over 247, looking at the senior members of the bloody sect, with disgust in his eyes. Disgusting breath, the evil god's lackey. Lulu. Is this a devil? Looking at Sibel's unusual skin color and the horns on her forehead, the expressions of the senior officials of the bloody sect were once again shocked, and they felt deeply horrified in their hearts. I originally thought that Bai Yi's strength was based on his own strength. But he didn't expect that he had actually recruited the Wanderer in the game, and he was also the rumored devil. There is no shortage of rumors about demons in the real world. Although he didn't know Zybel's strength, just guessing the identity of the other demon made him feel desperate. But before he had too many thoughts, a huge white tiger suddenly stuck its head out from behind Bai Yi, let out a soft roar, and looked at the senior members of the blood sect with disgust in its eyes. Obviously, for normal creatures in the Dark Land, no one would like the breath of the evil god. The appearance of the white tiger undoubtedly dealt a powerful blow to the minds of the top leaders of the bloody sect who were in panic. It made him even more desperate. With his eyes, how could he not see that this was no ordinary tiger, but a beast with extraordinary power in the game? Bai Yi's strength is already very strong, plus a demon, an extraordinary beast. He let out a completely desperate laugh and said crazily, I didn't expect you to hide it so deeply. I'm afraid no one knows that a player who is powerful himself can actually have such power. Such a powerful force, it is no exaggeration to say that the deterrence caused by it is no less than a small military operation. After all, extraordinary power is much more unpredictable than thermal weapons. It does not lie in its destructive power, but in its particularity and weirdness. Bai Yi said lightly, don't you know that now? Although soon you, the one who knows, will die. A senior member of the bloody sect, his enemy, suddenly knocked on his door in the middle of the night. It sounds a bit funny, but the reality is that there is no logic. Bai Yi doesn't bother to think about why. Anyway, he has nothing to talk about with these guys. Now that he has arrived at your door, just kill him. With this thought, a chill flashed in Bai Yi's eyes. The top brass of the bloody sect noticed it immediately and turned around and left without hesitation. Although desperate, he still did not want to give up hope. I have to go, I have to escape. As long as I escape and pass this news back to the headquarters, it's worth it even if I die. An extraordinary beast. A demon. Even the recruited wanderers are so powerful. I really can't imagine how many good things Bai Yi will have in the shelter. As long as he can be killed, the sect will definitely become stronger and the god will come faster. Thinking of this, he regretted it. If he had known Bai Yi's true situation earlier, he would not have tested him before, but would have directly led everyone to kill Bai Yi. With their strength at the time, they definitely had a chance. Bai Yi naturally doesn't know what the senior leaders of the blood sect are thinking. If he knew, he would just laugh and then turn around. Bai Yi said, "You are thinking too much." But looking at the target of escape, Bai Yi sneered. "Want to escape? You have to be able to escape." There was no need for Bai Yi to take action. A pink glimmer appeared in Zybel's eyes. She waved her right hand and drew out a long whip made of pink energy. Continuously extending, it suddenly restrained the other party and pulled him back. With a bang, the senior members of the bloody sect were pulled back to the front. "Go to hell." With a look of unwillingness on his face, he roared, turned back to Bai Yi without hesitation, and a bloody light burst out from his palm. Buzz. A barrier emerged, and Bai Yi cast an absorption shield. The bloody light fell on the magic shield without causing any fluctuations. But the next moment, a faint light condensed on the magic shield and quickly bounced back. With a pop, the top brass of the bloody sect had no time to react, and their heads were pierced directly. Their eyes widened and they fell to the ground dead. Blanche. Bai Yi slapped his forehead suddenly and said helplessly, "I almost forgot that the magic shield also has a rebound effect." The newly synthesized skill has not been used before, so he is not very impressed by its effect. He hasn't planned to kill the other party yet. Even if you want to kill, you have to use the soul-eating hand. Maybe you can get some information. At least you have to figure out why the other party appears at your door. Unexpectedly, he was killed by the magic shield. Damn, trash. Bai Yi curled his lips and couldn't help but spit on the corpse. With such strength, you still come to your door to find trouble. I don't know what to think either. But since he was dead, there was no point thinking about it anymore. Bai Yi could only drag the body into the house while the neighbor didn't go out to see what happened, and then cleaned up the blood on the ground. He took out his cell phone again, found Nimeng's number and dialed it. After all, he is also a member of the blood sect. He has contacted Nimeng before, and the other party will definitely pursue these guys. Bai Yi felt that the other party should know something about the situation ACDJ, and the body could also be handed over to the other party for disposal. As soon as the call was placed, the call was answered immediately. Hoo. Bai Yi asked with a twitch in the corner of his mouth. What the hell is that noise over there? I'm driving. Bai Yi, what do you want from me? Nimeng's voice came from the phone, like a shout. This immediately brought to Bai Yi's mind the image of Nimeng riding a motorcycle and racing wildly on the highway. You're not racing, are you? Almost. You are breaking the law knowingly. Be careful and I will report you. Quote. It doesn't matter. I can excuse myself when the time comes. 6. It's really awesome to have the official backing. Nimeng said helplessly. Okay, you'd better hurry up and tell me what's wrong. I have something urgent here. This is Bai Yi. If anyone else had called her at this time and wasted time here, she would have hung up the phone and blocked them. Listening to the anxious tone in Nimeng's tone, Bai Yi touched his chin and said hesitantly. Emergency, is it, the bloody sect? Hey, how do you know? Nimeng sounded surprised. It really is. Bai Yi raised his eyebrows and asked again. Is it possible that you took action against the bloody sect today? Yes, what's wrong? At my house. No, on the highway. That means someone escaped, so you are chasing him. Hey, how do you know that? Bai Yi looked at the corpse in front of him and couldn't help but fell into silence. Hey, talk, what's going on with you? Why do you know all about our actions today? Are you also an official member? A hidden force? Bai Yi's mind is full of questions. Sisters, you have a lot on your mind. He said angrily. The bloody sect member you are chasing is here with me. Worker. Huh, where are you? How? When Nimeng was about to say how it was possible, he seemed to think of something and stopped suddenly, and then a smile couldn't help appearing in his tone. Ha, I understand, are you okay there? What can happen to me? This guy wanted to attack me, and I killed him. Okay, just wait, I'll be there right away. You've been a big help this time, ha ha ha. Nimeng hung up the phone happily, remembering the department's introduction to the teleportation ability in the blood sect's intelligence, and couldn't help laughing. She had already guessed it. The guy teleported randomly, but he didn't expect it to be directly near Bai Yi. Fortunately, he took the initiative to deliver it to Bai Yi. All I can say is that he is worthy of being a member of the blood sect. A guy who has done all kinds of bad things, is riddled with bad luck, and deserves to die. With Bai Yi's call, she suddenly felt relaxed. She immediately notified him and asked some of his men to withdraw, while the rest continued to investigate to see if there were any hidden members of the bloody sect. He led a group of people towards Bai Yi. At the same time, Bai Yi also hung up the phone. Scratching his head, he couldn't figure out why Nimeng looked like he wanted to laugh. Forget it, we'll find out when he comes over later. Now, let's see if we can gain anything. Shaking his head, Bai Yi looked at his phone and clicked on the game. On the screen, prompts have popped up. All of them are resources obtained after killing this bloody sect leader. You obtained stones X 5000. Close black lens bracket. You obtained wood X 5000. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the bloody seed. Close black lens bracket. You have obtained the statue of the evil god. Close black lens bracket. Damn, another tooth god statue. Bai Yi couldn't help but twitching at the corner of his eyes when he saw the reward. What kind of rubbish is this? It's so useless. But what is this bloody seed? Bai Yi murmured curiously and clicked to check. Open black lens bracket bloody seed. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The evil seed formed by the unknown being condensed with its own will contains the other party's will. Once planted, it will grow with flesh and blood as nutrients and cover an area. Transformed into blood and soil, it provides energy for the arrival of unknown existences. Close black lens bracket. Hiss. This introduction. Bai Yi narrowly missed throwing it out. Sure enough, there is nothing good about God. Bai Yi couldn't help but frown. This thing is just like the statue of the evil god, it is a scourge and has no use. Nothing else. It contains the will of the evil god, which cannot even be synthesized. Once synthesized, the evil god's eyes might fall on him in the next second. He didn't want to be targeted by the evil god. At the same time, Bai Yi was also determined. Not only are there no good things related to these evil gods, but they are all poor people. The statue of the evil god and the bloody seed are useless. They even have so few resources. Bai Yi cursed and turned off the prompt. Then he began to think about what reward he should ask Nimeng for next. After all, this can be regarded as killing harm for the people, and according to the conversation with Nimeng just now, this was a fish that slipped through the official net and was a mistake in official actions. It is an act of remediation. If you don't give yourself a reward, can this be justified? So apply for rewards from the official, no problem. Close the pop-up prompt. Considering that Nimeng was coming later, Bai Yi could only ask Zybayer and others to stay in the room. As for the shelter, because the character is outside, he can't enter it for the time being. Considering the identities of Zybel and others, it is better not to be exposed for the time being. Once the darkness falls, it won't matter. After Zybayer and the others entered the room, Bai Yi sat alone in the living room and started playing games while waiting for Nimeng and others to come. Next, let's open the treasure chest first. There is nothing good about this cultist. I hope there will be surprises in the treasure chest. Bai Yi controlled the character, came under the desk, dragged out the silver treasure chest, then rubbed his hands and opened it expectantly. You opened the silver treasure chest and obtained fertile soil X100, invisible monitor set. Close black lens bracket. Bai Yi was startled and suddenly showed a surprised expression. Fertile soil, invisible monitor suit. The former should be a kind of soil, which is just the right time. After all, his natural ancient tree room is still waiting to be built. I wasn't very anxious before because I didn't have a partner. Now that we have it, it is naturally better to build it in advance. It's a pity that with soil, flowers are also needed. I don't know why these things are needed when there is a rune drawing. Apart from the soil, it was the monitor set that made Bai Yi a little confused. Out of curiosity, Bai Yi clicked to check. Open black lens bracket invisible monitor set. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The special magic technology originated from the Academy and contains the wisdom of the Academy. It is divided into monitors, display screens and energy transmission devices. The monitor can be placed anywhere and provides energy to the energy transmission device. You can monitor the area in real time. At the same time, because it is magic technology, if the monitor is placed on a building or instrument that has this function, the monitoring range can be increased. Close black lens bracket. Hiss, this thing. After reading the introduction, Bai Yi touched his chin and thought of the watchtower for the first time. This thing seems to be specially prepared for the watchtower. After all, this is not an ordinary monitor, but magic technology. According to the introduction, if it is placed on a watchtower, it can increase the viewing range of the watchtower. This is good stuff. After all, if you can see farther, you can avoid more dangers. Especially after darkness falls, it will not be as simple as what you encounter in the game now. As far as Bai Yi's personal experience is concerned, what people have to face after darkness falls is much more dangerous than in the game. At least after darkness falls, in addition to all kinds of monsters and natural disasters, there are also many scary and strange creatures. That is the most dangerous thing. But until now, after finishing the game, Bai Yi has not seen a single weird thing. And with the West and the watchtower, even after darkness falls, any disturbance in the area within the shelter can be detected. The main reason is that the watchtower can ignore the darkness and clearly observe every corner, so it is suitable for use with a monitor. Not bad. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth slightly, with a satisfied smile on his face. Although it is not an item that directly enhances combat power, it still has a powerful effect. It's a pity that I can't return to the shelter yet, so I can only put it in my backpack temporarily until I get back. The next step is the third floor. Thinking of this, Bai Yi showed an expectant smile on his face, and he couldn't wait to control the character to leave the room and walk towards the stairs. What a god! He had never heard of this thing in his previous life, let alone seen it. To put it bluntly, it was too high-end for him in his previous life. But this life was completely reversed. This life is undoubtedly too high-end for other players, who have never heard of it or seen it. But Bai Yi did not lose his mind due to excitement. He is now considered a scholar. The more critical this moment is, the more cautious you must be to avoid any danger that may lead to the death of your character. Otherwise, once you die, you can only wait for tomorrow. That's it for normal times. But when it is clear that there is only one step away from getting the treasure, waiting for tomorrow is no less than the feeling of having ants crawling all over the body, and it is unbearable. Fortunately, Bai Yi was relieved that there seemed to be no danger on the third floor. Let him come up safely. This level is the top of the castle. After coming up, Bai Yi could clearly see that the ceiling on the third floor was broken. He didn't know whether it was broken in the first place or caused by his battle with the bone dragon. Black mist surged outside the shattered ceiling. And just under this hole, a card shines brightly, shining like a star. This is... Bai Yi swallowed his saliva. He had never seen such a prop before, but he had some vague guesses in his heart. He couldn't help but stepped forward and reached out to take the card. You have obtained the building. Moonwell, broken. Close black lens bracket. FK. Seeing the prompt pop up on the phone screen, Bai Yi couldn't help but cursed, his face full of shock. This divine object is actually a Moonwell. Unexpected. Totally unexpected. But thinking about it carefully, it seems that it should be the Moonwell. After all, this is a building given by the Moon Goddess. It is no exaggeration to say it is a divine object. But why is it broken? Is it because of the darkness? Bai Yi was confused, couldn't figure it out, and didn't bother to think about it, but quickly checked the moon's information. Moonwell, fetish. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. The goddess of the moon gave the artifact to the dark elves. It contains the belief of the dark elves in the goddess of the moon. It is a treasure that makes countless living beings long for it. However, unfortunately for some unknown reason, it was attacked and partially damaged, but still retains some of its original power. After selecting an area, you can place a Moonwell to condense moon water. 1. Gulu. Sure enough, it is really a Moonwell. It's okay, as long as the team is here. 11. Bai Yi took a deep breath and patted his chest. When he saw the damaged state, he was a little worried that the Moonwell would lose its original effect. But now after seeing the introduction, I feel relieved that it can still be used. The Moonwell obviously has many powerful effects, but it has not been placed yet, so it cannot be seen. But Bai Yi was already pleasantly surprised. Being able to obtain such a divine object already made him satisfied, and being greedy would be a bit ungrateful. I just don't know if this Moonwell can be repaired, and if so, I don't know what materials are needed to repair it. Bai Yi murmured, thinking secretly. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Bai Yi quickly came to his senses. As expected, Nimeng and others arrived. He turned off the game, stood up and opened the door. Sure enough, what catches the eye is Nimeng, and his proud mind, so eye-catching. Bai Yi, where is the body of the bloody sect member? Did you throw it away? As soon as he saw Bai Yi, Nimeng couldn't help but ask. No, I dragged him to the living room, and I'm going to let you solve it. Bai Yi shook his head, invited them in, and motioned to the corpse in the living room. It is indeed him, ha ha ha, this is the unlucky guy. Looking at the face of the corpse, Nimeng nodded, recognizing that this was the person who left using the teleportation scroll, but when he thought that he teleported near Bai Yi's home, he couldn't help but laugh. The same was true for several other subordinates behind him, and they couldn't help laughing. Bai Yi scratched his head, a little confused. What's going on with you? Ha ha ha, I'll explain it to you and you'll understand. Nimeng covered her mouth, chuckled and explained to Bai Yi why they wanted to laugh. After listening to it, even Bai Yi found it a bit funny. I can only say that he and I are destined. Bai Yi laughed. That's right, it's impossible for this kind of thing to happen without fate. Nimeng smiled and nodded, waved his hand, and immediately had the body taken away. He even carefully helped Bai Yi clean up the bloodstains and sprayed some air freshener to remove the smell of blood. Then, Nimeng expressed his gratitude to Bai Yi. This matter is not a trivial matter, and we are obviously fully prepared if the other party escapes and does something harmful to the people. Nimeng will definitely be demoted, and may be severely punished. Fortunately, Bai Yi found the top brass of the bloody sect. Although she would still be called over by the leader to give a lecture, it was just a lecture. Is it just a verbal thank you? Bai Yi asked with a smile. Hearing this, Nimeng's red lips slightly raised and she shook her head. Of course not. There will definitely be a reward. After all, I have helped so much. But the specific reward may have to wait until I go back. Haha, it doesn't matter. As long as there is a reward, I'll wait a few more days. Okay, it's very late. I won't disturb you to play games. Let's go now. Goodbye. Bai Yi smiled, gave up, and watched Nimeng leave. After confirming that he was gone, he opened the room and let Zybel and others inside come out. Is that person just now the person with power in this world? Sibel asked curiously. Bai Yi nodded. Almost, it can be understood that there is this all hidden. Understood. Zybier understood clearly. The matter is resolved. The house became quiet again. Those who should watch TV watch TV. It's time to play games. Mia plays Plants vs. Zombies. Bai Yi gave the living room to the tiger mother and the others, then returned to the room and reopened the game. He was not in a hurry to control the character to leave the castle, but was preparing to synthesize it. He played for a long time today and should take a break, but before taking a break, he still had 3 synthesis times to use today, so he couldn't waste it. As for what to synthesize, Bai Yi also has a method. First, there is the meteor robe. This is my newly acquired equipment, and I have never synthesized it before. I definitely need to synthesize it. It's a synthetic plan. It's the moon water. Bai Yi didn't want to use it before. Because there is only so much moon water and it is very rare, you must save it for later use when needed. But now that we have even obtained the Moonwell, there is no need to continue to save. It's a pity that there is no meteor stone, otherwise it can be synthesized and it should be able to complete the meteor robe. The meteor robe has lost its original power, leaving only a small part. But the meteor stone is too rare. As you can tell from the name, it is a special material brought by meteors. It is extremely rare and there is no need to consider it for a short time. Fortunately, moon water is also good. Thinking of this, Bai Yi's eyes once again showed anticipation, and he clicked on the backpack to choose. Meteor robe plus moon water. Click compose. Appear on the screen immediately. There was light. Under Bai Yi's expectant gaze, the 2 items merged into one. Then, a prompt appeared on the screen. The synthesis is successful. You have obtained the Weiyu robe. Close black lens bracket. Weiyu. I like this name, haha. The corners of Bai Yi's mouth raised. He thought it was very powerful when he heard the name, so he immediately started to check it out. Weiyu robe. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. This is a robe specially made for mages. It is also a magic weapon. It uses many precious materials. What is even more rare is that it also contains the gift of the moon goddess. Fortunately, it is said that anyone who wears this robe will gain the attention of the goddess. Close black lens bracket. Effect. After the mage equips it, all magic power consumption is reduced by 7%, and all magic power is increased by 7%. Close black lens bracket. Attached skills. Cleaning technique. Glowing moon once a day. After using it, you can summon a glowing moon, emitting bright moonlight to kill the enemy. Close black lens bracket. Awesome, ha ha ha. Seeing the introduction, Bai Yi beamed. It is indeed moon water. Not only are all effects enhanced, there is actually a new skill added, and it is also an attack skill, so its lethality should not be weak. After all, this is a skill blessed by the goddess. Let's find a strong enemy tomorrow to test our power. Bai Yi thought to himself, and then equipped the robe. Compared with the previous meteor robe, the Weiyu robe is undoubtedly more beautiful. It is as dark blue as the starry sky, and there is a crescent moon hanging on the back, just like a real moon, emitting with a glimmer of light. Bai Yi became more and more satisfied as he watched. The more I watch, the more I like it. But just when Bai Yi was satisfied with the synthesis of the Weiyu robe, on the other side, in an unknown place, a pair of pupils slowly opened from their deep sleep. As if he felt something, he looked in one direction involuntarily and murmured slightly. Moonwell, has it been obtained? It seems that, counting the time, new turmoil is coming. Guang. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.